All right, we'll start with the, call this meeting to order, and I will start with the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Here.
Here. We'll move to correspondence. Please hand that down to Mr. Stack for Lakes Area Youth Assistance.
Thank you, John.
I shall maintain these in their honor.
Thank you very much. You're a good sport.
On me, it's a good luck, really.
It is.
Okay. Correspondence. Do I hear a motion to receive and file the correspondence?
So moved.
Support. Motion Nedrow, second Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Additions to business.
I have no additions to business.
Thank goodness. Plenty on that agenda already. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Motion Nedrow, second Stack. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First call to the public. This is an opportunity for citizens to address council on agenda items. Oh, let's get name and address and either come up to the phone or get them the mic. Get her the mic.
Thanks. I don't know.
Yep.
Jennifer Moore, I'm here for when you want to talk with Mike Howell about the pond, filling in the pond.
Okay, and I think we'll open up to you guys at that point.
Okay, thanks.
Bob Malik, 1620 Thurston. I have a question on the correspondence. Is there any way of reading that or letting us know what it's about?
Sure. I'll read it off right now as a brief note. From Marci Kaminski to Judy Whittle, subject garbage. Hey Judy, just wanted to compliment the garbage men. It's so cold and miserable outside and they still take the time to stack the cans so they do not blow everywhere. Could you please pass my thanks on, Marci?
Thank you. And one last item, item 13, pending business. Are we ever going to see something transpire with the septic maintenance ordinance or inspection ordinance? Or is this going to continue for another year? Because it's been almost 2 years on there now.
Well, I'll tell you
Thank
what, Bob,
you.
I'd like to bring it into this year's goal-setting meeting and talk about what we'll do with it, so. Anybody else? Seeing none, I will close the first call to the public. We will move on to approval of consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion Stack, second Nedrow.
Sinkowitz.
Nope, Sinkowitz is second. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to item 12A. We will start with reports from the engineer.
Thank you, Council. The first item of business is the continued payment to Cadillac Asphalt. Their initial request was for a payment of $13,000, or actually $16,000. As you can see from my letter, however, that's the total amount that the village is retaining from the Cadillac pay for the project. As you can see from the math that I have presented before you, I'm still recommending not only some deduction from those holdings, but also a continual holding of $9,000 for the reseeding and re-landscaping some of the ditches along Glengarry Road. The original seeding and the restoration didn't take hold, and I'd like to withhold that $9,000 till spring so that they can get out and actually complete that project. The other $3,000 there that they kind of left out of their pay request is the bid item that was a credit to the village if we disposed of the millings within 1 mile of the project. We did that. They didn't have to haul any millings away from the village, and therefore we're due that $3,000 credit. So my recommendation at this time, until springtime, a payment to Cadillac of $3,556.07.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pay Cadillac Asphalt the amount due at this time of $3,556.07 based on Engineer Powell's recommendation.
Second that.
Motion Sikowitz, second Duff. Further discussion?
My question relative to that $9,000, has this been discussed in detail with Cadillac, and they're aware that we're gonna hold back the $9,000 for them to fix all the ditches and issues?
They are not, they were copied my letter, so I haven't had an opportunity to walk that with them, and quite frankly, the areas that I'd be showing them now may actually be increased next spring if the grass doesn't come back. So when the frost comes out of the ground in spring, that's when I plan on walking that with Cadillac.
Do you think that's enough to cover the issues that we have?
That's actually just about the same amount that we paid the landscaper to do it the first time, so it's almost doubling the total cost, so
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Sinkwich.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Staff.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Medrow.
Yes.
All right. Item 2, A&R seal coating payment recommendation in the amount of $10,199.84.
Council, this is precisely per budget that was approved this particular year, and this is the annual crack sealing program to make sure that water doesn't flow into the cracks of the roadways in the fall and springtime. So we like to do it this time of the year that protects the pavement through the freeze-thaw cycle. So in budgeted funds, we're requesting council pay A&R seal coating $10,199.84.
I'd like to make a motion that, based on the information presented here by Engineer Powell, that AR seal coating be paid the amount of $10,199.84 for a seal coating program.
Support. Motion Sinkowitz, I think this time the second was Nedrow first. Very competitive among the three of you.
Reason why?
Further discussion on that item?
Question.
Sure.
I see we did almost twice as much on minor roads than major, because our major roads are the absolute newest, the big one. Do you have an idea which streets got the most attention this time? Did you get an idea on that?
Yes, we actually started from the Village Hall, did the front portion of Marchar and went clockwise around the village. Tampa, Briar Ridge, a little bit on Helmsford, Glen Cove, and worked our way around, hitting the new pavement first, ending up all the way around Spring Lake Heights Annex and Spring Lake Heights itself. So
Okay.
we went around the village and did it just in budgeted funds. About 2/3 was budgeted for minor roads, 1/3 was budgeted for major roads.
I know in the past we had some problems with the application and the bonding ability of this product. Were you satisfied with this?
Very satisfied.
Good.
Not only did I meet with them in the morning, and I asked them to change a philosophy a little bit. I didn't want them to install sealant in the cracks. I wanted them to seal the cracks. And while I was watching them, they did an excellent job, spot checked it throughout the day, so I'm very pleased.
Thank you.
Mike, a couple questions. I noticed, I don't think last year they did it, but this year all the cracks, somebody came around with a can of spray paint and marked them. Did you do that, or did the seal coat company? do
No, that was me.
Okay, that's good.
Went through, and I didn't do every crack. I did kind of the ends of the cracks and give them an idea of the cracks I wanted filled, and they did between.
You forgot to do the cracks in my driveway.
You know what? I thought about that, and I stopped just short of
Okay.
that.
The other question relative, you said you didn't do it in roads where extensive repairs are needed.
Correct.
Do we have a list of these roads? Because one of the comments I made, I think the administrator was on
Angola.
Angola,
Indiana.
yeah, thank you, Sharon.
And Indiana.
In Indiana, that wasn't touched this year, and he says because those roads are too bad and they need to be repaved, or whatever. Do we have an updated list for paving and repair of roads this coming spring, or what are we gonna do?
We
about it?
have a list that is, actually, it's time for me to do a new 5-year facility study. And I haven't done that yet, but those roads were on towards the end of the last 5-year program. We may have to do a little bit of creative sliding of that due to our big project here on Glengarry Road. And so I'll be working with Mike on next year's budget.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we don't lose lose track of those roads that do need repaired, you know, in our project, in our future, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Crack ceiling? Roll call vote?
McGee.
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes.
Duff. Staff.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Item 3, HG starter payment recommendation in the amount of $13,551.50 for pathway paving.
As council might remember, at the last council meeting, we paid them for the vast majority of the pathway. We were holding off on the completion of the pathway until the addition here was completed. And so, once that was completed, HG Sarter came in and did the section in front of this building, this block. They did the Vita Trail pathway from the parking lot out to the exercise station, and a section out on South Commerce Road. And so this is the balance of that project. We inspected the entire project as it was going down, and we ended up being about $1,500 under the overall budget. So I'm recommending that they be paid in full, including their retention from the last project.
All right. Quick question. We're going to talk about the bridge covering the, down when we talk boardwalk railing design, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Questions on this item?
I make a motion that we approve Al Sartor's invoice for $13,551.50 as recommended by Engineer Powell.
I'll second that.
So motion Nagy, second Duff. Further discussion?
And one question relative to striping and painting. Are we gonna be marking, especially along, I mean, doing any kind of striping to the walkway? I know we had talked about it before, and where is that gonna fall, and who's gonna do that, et cetera?
I'm going to recommend that be done in the spring.
Yeah.
PK Striping is the company that's done the striping throughout the village. That it was not in the proposed budget for the pathway. We have enough to do it, but it hasn't been scheduled yet. We have a little bit of time in that we wouldn't do it till spring anyway, but that's when I would suggest doing it and rolling it into this particular project. We have enough budget to be able to do that. It's all been striped except for the area where the pathway is right adjacent to the roadway. And we
Yeah,
propose
that's what I
two
was
white
referring
lines
to.
there to keep traffic and pedestrians separated.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we've got a motion. Roll call vote?
Maggie.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Staff.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Sitowicz.
Yep.
McGee.
Yes. All right, item 4, HG starter payment recommendation in the amount of $750 for the 2012 Lakeview paving.
We had two areas of calls that the residents were asking us to do something regarding some drainage issues after we paved that roadway. We're taking care of all the other issues. There was one person at 1010 Lakeview where they were concerned about the water coming into their driveway. Their driveway actually slopes out towards the roadway, and I did not put one of those famous wedges in front of their drive because the water comes out of their driveway onto the roadway. But the western portion of their drive, the water would go into their drive and then back out again, and it was depositing some silt there. So they asked if we couldn't do a little bit of creative milling at the end of their driveway where the road pavement was to get that water to leave that driveway a little bit quicker. And then further on down the line where, and I apologize, I'm gonna forget what roadway it is. It's a road that comes down from McCoy and it drops down towards Lakeview. And the water comes down that road so fast, and only in a major rainstorm, because I personally stood out there and watched it during a couple different rainstorms. And it would jump the curb line or jump the little swale line and go down somebody's driveway. So this H.A. Sarter actually milled in front of there and created a little bit deeper valley in front of their house, in front of their driveway, so the water stops and gets carried down into a catch basin instead of jumps over into their driveway. It's working extremely well. So H.A. Sarter did that for us. Their minimum charge is $750 for all that operation, and they clean it up, they sweep it, and they did an excellent job. So I'm recommending that this closes out that particular project at $750.
All right, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the $750 as a final payment for the repair work as recommended by Agent Powell? Yeah, Engineer Powell.
So motion Nagy, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second Scott. Further discussion, just a question for you, Mike, this was a 2012 project, do we still have a line item in here? Is it budgeted, or will we need to do a budget amendment?
I would put it under local road maintenance for this year, and there's still enough money in there to cover that.
Okay. cool. Other questions? You're envying my reindeer antlers, aren't you?
I just wanted to make comment, you're losing there for There you go. Watch out for lightning.
Gotta maintain proper decorum.
That's right.
Okay.
It is antler season, isn't it?
Further discussion of the, of paying $750 to HG Sarter. Roll call vote?
Bill?
Yep.
Staff?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Pedro?
Yes.
Huber?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
All right, item 5, ditch enclosure.
I didn't know if the executive committee, administrative committee would like to discuss this or not. This is my presentation based upon the recommendation from the executive committee to try to save a very large tree that's along Glengarry Road. Due to the ditching, there ended up being a little more root mass exposed along a large tree on Glengarry Road there. And so if we enclose a ditch line along that tree, we are going to safeguard that tree and hopefully preserve it for many years. This is a ditch enclosure at, I think it's 1380, is it not? 1380 Apple Orchard, right on the corner of Glengarry and Apple Orchard. It doesn't enclose the entire ditch line, just the area both sides of that tree for a certain distance. The cost to install that entire enclosure is right about $2,200–2,300. The intent is that the village might provide the materials. JJM Excavating gave us a price of $1,000 to do the labor, but certainly there is another option that Sharon might present tonight as well.
And I think it's a question of, can we have the DPW
Question?
do this?
Yeah.
Yes, the DPW can do this work, and it could be done in the spring. Of course, not now.
Right.
Everything's frozen, and no sense to tear up established.
Since we're in discussion, has the resident that lives at that location, has he seen this? And
I emailed all this information to him, yes.
so we don't know, is he content
He
with
said
it?
thank you, and he's not here tonight, so I think he must be.
Okay.
And I believe, Mike, did you talk with him?
I talked with him, I went down there with Andy and we looked at everything and we walked it, and by doing this, it will make, well, number one, it's gonna save the tree. Number two, it's going to make the area a little more level. The water's still gonna flow. The water, they'll have some areas where it's gonna be weed whipped and that, but I mean, that has to happen because you can't close the whole.
Yeah, essentially,
Right.
when we had the discussion about all of the ditches, because Mr. Kucinich brought it up, this was right at his area, which had a particular problem, but we also reviewed all that work, which is where we came back, got the inventory, and said, hey, look, all this stuff wasn't done right, let's get it done right.
Right.
And this one particular area was kind of an exception to everything because of the way the tree was right there and the way it sat. It really does need to be enclosed to get it deep enough and to cover it
Yeah.
open. So we're recommending we just do that project, and that should protect the tree.
Yeah, the further west you went, the further west you went along Glengarry, the worse that became. And around that tree, if we get a lot of rainwater or water off the road,
Yep.
it's gonna undercut the root system very quickly.
So I think, although I won't be happy with the pace at which we've gotten to the solution, I think the solution itself is good with him, and we'll be able to do it, and I think we can have our DPW do it, so
Yes.
I think it's good all around.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve it, not quite as presented, because JM Baco won't be doing it.
To approve the repair and have the DPW.
Approve the repair,
do
And
the
the
work.
concept.
the concept
Do it for a dollar figure,
with the
not to exceed.
DPW.
Well, the DPW
No,
is
just have
going
the
to do
It'll
it,
be
so-
DPW, and we have the cost of the pipe.
Yep. So, motion Stack, second Duff, to approve the concept, have the DPW do the work, and I think that's all we need.
Okay.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that come springtime, before we do the work, that it's again reviewed with Mr. Kucinich, that he's happy with what we're doing. So he doesn't think about it all winter and
We're
says,
gonna look
oh, I don't really like this type thing, okay, just to
I
make,
think he'll contact me if he
Okay.
has any problems with it.
all right, I just wanna make sure, we don't wanna go down and start doing work. Wait a minute, that's not what I agree with.
Let's make sure we're in touch with them.
Yes,
We'll make
please.
sure of that.
I actually sent the drawing to him too, so
Okay.
he has all of the
And
information.
mention that we'd stop down and talk to him also.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need any more aggravated homeowners.
All right. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Steph?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Pedro?
Yes.
Sequence?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
Shum.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Item 6, filling in open water on the north side of McCoy Road.
Council, if you remember at the last meeting, we talked about the possibility of filling in that water hole, let's put it, there on the north side of of McCoy. Council very wisely asked some questions, how far do we do it, and what the extent, how deep is it? Asked the wisdom of using asphalt millings for backfilling. So on a couple of those issues, I did touch base with the DEQ. They have no issues whatsoever with us using millings. However, we touched base with the president of a very prestigious environmental company. And even though asphalt is not a prohibited product, it does have some byproducts in it that may impact air and/or groundwater in the future. They highly recommended we not use millings to backfill any subaqueous type area. That being said, we would propose to use the dredgings from the ditch lines that we've created. We've got a large area of stockpiled material that can be utilized in any other material that developers have, clean fill I'm talking about, we could use to backfill that hole. The intent would be to start from the homes on the north side of the water and fill it towards Glengarry Road, pushing the water out into, McCoy Road ditch line and down the ditch line, and that's the way we would get rid of the water. And there's a special engineering technique to do that. One of the questions council had is, if we're going to do that, we have to make sure that the homeowners adjacent are in agreement, and then maybe work something out with council on ownership of some of those lots. The village owns all the parcels that are on Wilkshire, on the east side of that water hole. The village owns all the lots except 2 on the Killarney side, and the property owner of those 2 lots is here tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Moore are here to discuss with council the possibility of filling that hole in, and then possibly even discussing how the ownership of all or part of those 2 lots are transferred to the village versus them having them after they're filled. So that being said, I can, instead of me representing them, I think they can do a much better job representing themselves and answer any questions that council may have on the potential of filling those parcels.
Go ahead.
I have one question on filling. Can we talk to Redwood and see what they'll have as far as fill when they start excavating in for basements and utilities?
We certainly can. They, right now anyway, their site is proposed to balance. Remember, they have
Okay.
actually created walkout basements all along the western side of that in order to not have to bring fill in. Any material that they have left over, I'm sure they'd be thrilled to be able to donate to something like that. There are also 2 projects west of here that may have excess fill as well in Commerce Township, 2 developments. And actually at Loon and then Maple and Beck, that's correct. So there are a number of developments that I could contact and say, listen, we've got a spot to be able to put this material. The coordination ends up a little bit tricky when you're taking product from developers like that, because they might want you to pay for the hauling, so there'd be a cost to that. At the very least, they wouldn't want to pay for a tractor to sit there and push the material into the village property and pay for the trucking. So that negotiation I'd want to bring back to council, unless they were willing to do all that for free, of course.
Mike,
They won't be.
question for you. if we do, or it doesn't end up becoming a viable project, are you indicating that the village is gonna pay for the material, pay for the trucking, pay for all the labor?
I suppose that is something, and that's one of the reasons the Moores are here, because the village owns the vast majority of the property there. So if it is improved, council would have to decide what you were going to do with it and whether or not it was economically worth it to you.
Okay.
I think at this point, I could go ahead and I think I'll just call directly on the Moores. I don't think we even need a motion to open. Do we have a mic over there for him?
Doesn't matter, right now, our sound's not.
No, we're recording.
We're back again?
We're recording.
Okay. You got
We'll get the mic to them. In the meantime, so you guys have talked with Mike a little bit about what we have in mind.
Yes.
In terms of
Thanks.
seeing if we can fill it in, maybe get it all turned over to the village, and then we could possibly dedicate it as a park and put something like that in there.
Fill away.
Right.
I guess no objections.
Well, what we had talked about was that, because the pond does, it's not a straight line,
Mhm.
and what we were talking about was straightening out the property line so that part of it would still remain ours, part of those two lots, so that our property line would be straight. And that we would then deed a portion of it to the village out of those two lots. And he said he'd come out and we'd take a look at what it needed to be, so that we would know exactly where our property line would be when we deeded over the portions of it to you guys, and what would be our actual property line in the end. And also, we want to know about a fence being built to divide us from the park,
Mhm.
whether or not there is going to be parking put in, and what kind of lighting will be there, whether or not we don't want lights shining in our kids' bedroom windows, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Those kind of things. And what kind of a park it's going to be set up to be. I mean, is it general kids' playground equipment? What are you guys contemplating? I know it's an early stage thinking.
All excellent questions that we haven't really gone down the path of, but I think what we've talked about is something in line with what we've been looking at for our neighborhood parks, which would really be, dusk to dawn, not open after dark, so not a lighting situation.
Okay.
If there is any parking, it would be really limited, 2 or 3 little slots to the side or something.
Mhm.
And really just, picnic table, slide, maybe a basketball hoop or a half-court basketball, station or something like that. But
Okay.
But something fairly small. And really what we're trying to do with those is create some small, kind of pocket parks in a few places, especially on the south side where we're
Oh, I think it's a
farther
great
away,
idea.
to just get, some of the neighborhood kids a place to go and gather and play.
And that, the fence for us would be mandatory, because
Mm-hmm.
we have a big dog, and we will always have a big dog, and we plan on living there, that's where we plan on being. And so a fence being put in, like a privacy fence along there, so that nobody would be concerned about our dog, and we wouldn't have to be worried about anybody being intimidated by our dog, just for everybody's peace of mind and safety.
It's a real nice dog, trust me.
But I understand, dog.
Yeah.
But, for everybody's peace of mind and safety, I think that that's an important thing to look at right from the get-go, to know that that would be put in.
Okay, well, not gonna negotiate the whole thing in the middle of a meeting, but I think. I don't know,
Well,
does-
no,
I
those
think
are
that's-
things though that I would
Too.
wanna know were
Right.
on the table, because, that's just important for me to know that it's looked at.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of thing that we can probably work something out with.
Okay.
The Moore Park, right?
What's the name of the dog?
Are we done with?
More purpose there. Yeah, I think so. Let's go back to council discussion now.
Well, when we talked about this last time, I knew that the asphalt would, you could probably put the last foot or two of that asphalt on top, that crushed, but not below. The other concern I have is that, especially when you're close to the house, you're not gonna be able to push the dirt in. You're gonna have to literally, either on a conveyor or something, but drop it in, because one of the biggest concerns you're gonna have is that their basement floor is, a couple inches above the water table and maybe only a few feet away. And if you start to push the dirt in from the road and start moving it across, you could undermine the foundation. And I think we'd also, the important thing for them and us is that if this project goes ahead, is that we have to get permission to them to videotape the house outside and inside, because if there's a chance that that extra soil and the weight of that is gonna cause a problem on your foundation, the village can't be responsible for that. That's something that, you know, has to be considered, because 99% of the time when you build a home, the weight of the dirt that you remove for the basement is 2 or 3 times greater than the whole house weighs. So by putting that weight in there and pushing it and settling it, it could have an adverse effect on your house because it's so close. You know, if it was 5 or 6, 10 feet away, I don't think there'd be a concern, but that water is, has the water ever actually gone into the house?
No.
Came real close though, huh?
No. We're the same
No.
level as McCoy.
We're,
We're
our,
dead even with McCoy.
yeah,
Yeah.
the water'd have to go over McCoy to go into our house.
It's been close.
Yeah.
Me and my shovel, it's been close.
Yeah, I can
Wow, you
imagine.
know,
But
like
those
that.
would be some of the concerns that I would think from a soil and an engineering concern that we'd have to make sure of. But I think as far as, once you got it filled in enough where there wasn't water ponding
there.
like that, yeah, that, all that material there could be easily used for the parking area and whatever.
Okay, so I think it sounds to me like we might have something here.
Might be
Clearly a
viable.
lot
Moving in that
to,
direction.
Yep.
to work with, but, you know, I think I hear consensus from everybody, expressed last month, expressed again this month, and from the environmental firm. We want to use clean fill there. We want to make sure it's absolutely good that way. We need to negotiate around a couple lots, how we'll fill in, what we'll do, what we do to make sure that what we put there works with you guys. And, you know, start to maybe figure out what the cost of that would be, how we'd locate things. So, does that sound like a good
Yeah.
good next step?
Last question for Mike. Mike, we don't know the depth yet, do we? And what's
We do-
below there?
We do not, but
Right.
as part of the hydrogeo, as you pointed out, and the structural analysis, we'd have to do some sounding, just to get some idea of how much fill we'd need.
If it would be beneficial, as soon as there's ice on there, I'll go out there and try to find out the depth of the water and what's the,
The water's 4 feet.
What's-
The
what-
muck underneath it's about 4 feet too.
so at 8 feet
Pulled
it's
out a lot of
solid?
kids.
It's what?
I pulled out a lot of kids.
So you're saying that from the top of the water, at 8 feet, you'll
Down
hit
to
solid
the
ground?
mud, and then down, when you stand on the mud, you sink down.
Okay.
Good 3, 4
All right.
feet.
Well, we know that then. Okay.
Okay, so I think at this point, you know, maybe I'd like a motion to really kick us off and proceed a little bit. Do I hear a motion to ask the engineer and administrator to proceed to discuss next steps with the Moores, collect up more information, and see what we can bring back to the next meeting?
I'll make a motion.
And you're gonna have a budget amount for this too.
Yeah, we're gonna need to figure out how much it's gonna cost and all of that sort of stuff. So, motion Duff, second Stack. We need to start figuring out some budget items. We need to figure out what they need out of us, what we need out of them.
I actually have one question. We're planning on pumping the water down before we fill, correct?
No, there's a
surcharge.
surcharge method to
Okay.
be able to just push from one side and the water and the muck kind of goes one way, and stabilizes from there. There are some engineering issues, as Ed pointed out, that we have to discuss, whether use geogrid or some kind of fabric, but all of those things will be addressed in the motion.
Yeah, it occurs to me like we're gonna ask you to do some work, so we're gonna need to have some money for you. Any idea what it'll take to get you started on this?
$500, and when it comes right down to it after next meeting, I'm sure Jennifer's going to get involved as well for the deeds and things like that, so.
Okay, so friendly amendment to include $500 in engineering fees for now. And I think I'd like that money to be charged against the $125,000 that we set aside to work on a park. That's the area for it. So, I think that gets us what we need out of this meeting to make some next steps. You good? You guys are good? Everyone on council good?
So be it, so let it be written.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like a movie quote to me.
We have some money included, so let's get a roll call vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Yeah.
Thank you, Morris.
We did have a motion on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we did.
I-
Yeah, Mark made it.
We started talking.
Yep, we got a motion from Mark.
Mark
second
and
Stack.
And we've voted.
Okay.
All right. finishes off that one, but plenty more to go. And boy, my answers are all over the place here. Okay.
I packed a lunch.
Boardwalk railing design.
I downloaded probably 100 different railing designs, and I didn't believe that council would be happy with any of them. Quite frankly, the off-the-shelf railing designs for bridges, pedestrian pathways are very, very similar to the design on the Bensteen Road pathway, because it meets some criteria for code requirements, so people don't slip through the railings, things like that. Differences were maybe a little bit of architectural designs and swerves for the verticals, maybe a couple of different horizontal designs, certainly wood, aluminum, steel, wrought iron, that kind of thing. Some clear railing, some wires going through between uprights, things like that. It wasn't a statement type railing like what we have down here on Glengarry Road. So what I did, I took a small drawing and took pictures of our railing to a client of mine who is Davis Ironworks over here on Bensteen Road. Went in to talk to the owner, the president, and he said he would be more than happy to assist the village on building. He says it's a very small project for him. They do much bigger work, but he would be more than happy to assist the village in providing a cost to build exactly what we have down here, only certainly not to the size structures that we have there. That's next to a roadway, and you don't need anything that heavy duty, but the look of it would be the same, with the arch and the horizontals as we have on that bridge. And quite frankly, the dimensions are very close to the same as well. He did say that it would cost a little more if they did it, simply because they're a bigger company. The DPW has a welder that they use all the time, and I have not had a chance to talk with them, but I know that he would probably be less costly, and Mr. Nair from Dave's Ironworks would be more than happy to provide or to obtain the materials for us. And so my suggestion is that we get, allow me to get a couple quotes from not only Frank Nair, but also the village welder, and see what it would cost to actually build a railing virtually identical to what we have on Glengarry Road. I think it would look good, do exactly what we want to have happen, and I think the village would be proud of it.
All right.
Question. I was under the impression that by now that the helical piers would be in and that the deck would be in too, because we talked about that with this time of year and the condition that roads get in with ice and snow, that now that we have a safe place for students to walk, to use that, and it was going to be a wooden deck and maybe a temporary railing. Where are we at? What's happening?
Well, obviously, I called Mistig. They came out and found that there are no gas lines, no electric lines, nothing like that. The Wayne County Drain Commission, WRC, came out, and right where the bridge is going to go, we have a 12-inch water main, right where one set of helical piers are going to be proposed. And that didn't scare me nearly as much as the 16-inch low-pressure sewer. And I just didn't feel comfortable having the helical pile guy come out. As you know, Ed, Mistig is plus or minus 3 feet. And I just did not want to have even a nick to either one of those utilities by a helical pier that gets drilled down within a couple feet of these lines. I have the ability to offset these helical piers one way or the other, but I just don't want to take the WRC's word for precisely where those utilities are. So I've worked with our sanitary sewer installer in the village, C&E. Greg Harris is a very, very good contractor, and he identifies those things all the time. And quite frankly, his brother is the underground contractor for the Redwood project. So I've talked to both of those. And they're putting together an idea as to how we might go down and locate those visually, and identify precisely where they're at, mark those so there's no mistake. You could just imagine, the village would be in the news if we were to hit one of those and it were to travel down the stream. So to answer your question, I didn't want to push the schedule. I would have rather been safe than sorry. And if you're at all familiar with that area, this water main and sanitary sewer is 6 to 7 feet deep, and the groundwater's at 3 feet. So we actually have 4 feet of groundwater that we're going to have to go through in order to identify where these are. So it's not going to be easy. So it's my fault, Ed. I didn't push it. I didn't ask them to do it. I didn't feel comfortable being that close to those without identifying in person.
Well, I know that when they put in the directional drill, the sewer or open trench, that there's a line that is attached to it that's picked up electrically.
Yes.
Which is a lot more accurate than the old days where it was just, beep, 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 and you sweep it. But do you have an idea when all this is going to get done?
The contractors have said that they're going to meet me out there the first of the next week, so not to do it, but to discuss how it should be done. It needs to be carefully planned because with the groundwater rushing in, I don't want to undermine the road, so these guys are experts, and I'm going to be looking to them to guide me on how to locate those things and how to mark them so that we can make sure that the
Well,
chemical piles.
we knew
don't
they were there when we put the sidewalk in.
We knew they were
Last
there.
question, if we've got 3 feet of water, and that means there's like 3 feet of soil underneath there, we have to go in there, which is probably all soft organic material.
Right.
Didn't you think about trying to probe and see if you can hit it?
And that's what their first suggestion was. Take off the material to get us within 3 feet of where the piping is, and then hand probe precisely where they're at. That is the direction that they're leading me, but until we get out there and actually look at it and evaluate it, my recommendation is that we'd rather be safe than sorry.
So, yeah.
There's no
Definitely. But if you run into a situation where you need equipment to probe, let me know.
Might do that, because we were trying to think of where we could get a 5-6 foot probe in order to do that. So thank you, Ed.
Mike, if you thought about using what they call GPR, ground penetrating radar, that would, I've used it in project at the steel mill, and it's very effective. I mean, it's very detailed as far as how deep it is and how big the object is. We found underground cables that way, that were like 8 feet underground. Now, I don't know what the cost, but the cost is not cheap, but it's something that can give you an image and show you exactly where they are and how deep they are.
I will pursue it. I am not that familiar with it. I
The
will pursue
GPR,
that, though.
is what they call it, ground penetrating radars.
And I don't know if water impacts that as well, but
I'm not sure either.
let me do some evaluation
They use
on
a
that.
separate transducer for wet areas.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Stack, I think you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any floatable
There is.
materials that would meet up with it being that close to the road and covering that span.
There is. As a matter of fact, we designed the floatable bridge in the park, in the Commerce Township Park, north of here. We cross that same stream. The difference is, this is right at the flared end sections, and so it's not a clean crossing of the stream. We're actually putting it over top of the end sections, and so there's not a nice flat area to be able to do it. Otherwise, Sharon and I actually talked about the potentially. It's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to put it back in off the road a little further, and there just wasn't a good spot to cross.
Okay.
All right, further questions? Do we need a motion to go and get the quotes on, no?
No.
Okay, cool. So let's find out more, bring back more to the next meeting. Okay, sanitary sewer panhandle, verbal report.
All right, I can start, and then the executive committee or the administrative committee can maybe pick up on what council needs to do. I'm going to step over to this map. Is the microphone in? As council knows, the Redwood project is under construction, and they're almost totally done installing the sanitary sewer up in the panhandle here. And unfortunately, I have to use the small map because the big map doesn't have the panhandle on it. The sanitary sewer is picking up the end of the sanitary sewer from Heron Hills. It's being run up into this area and then back into this section where they're building the apartments. The ordinance requires us to, requires the developer to extend utilities to the property lines to service properties adjacent to us.
Thank you.
Because of that, we're going to be able to serve the properties in the northern part of the Panhandle with water and sanitary sewer. The apartments off in this corner, the Stewart apartments, they're going to be serviced by a sanitary sewer lead off of these apartments. The credit union's going to be serviced by a sanitary lead off of the sanitary sewer as well. As a matter of fact, the manager of the credit union called me today and asked when can they tie in. So they're anxious to tie in as well. There are 4 parcels, however, that don't back right up to the area of the apartments. There's going to be a sanitary sewer stub on the northern part of the apartment complex, but we can't get up into these properties without extending a sanitary sewer up to their property lines. Sharon and I have contacted those property owners, and they have been in contact with us. I've met with 3 of the 4 owners. The only one I haven't met with is the 7-Eleven shopping center here. They are all very interested in have sanitary sewer extended up to their property. I've talked with the Redwood project owner and then the contractor who's putting the sanitary sewer in, and they're more than willing to allow their contractor to do some work at a greatly reduced rate because he's on site already doing the work to extend the sanitary sewer up to service those 4 property owners. However, it doesn't give us enough time to establish a special assessment district. As you know, that takes 3-4 months to be able to get an SAD approved and through. So we've approached each one of those property owners, and I have done an analysis, and I expect that it'll cost about $32,000. It's on the conservative side because we want to err on that side, to extend the sanitary sewer up to serve all 4 of those parcels. And the intent is to run it up this property line between all these and then go east to the 7-Eleven, so the 7-Eleven can tie in, the apartments can tie in, the J&R Engineering can tie in, and the car wash can tie in. All 4 would have access to a gravity sanitary sewer if we did that. 2 of the 4 have already paid the village, or I don't want to say donated, but established a special, escrow, that's what I was going, an escrow account that the village can use to be able to cause that sanitary sewer to be installed. We still need $8,000 from the 7-Eleven owner and $8,000 from the engineering company there. Both of which have said that they're interested in doing it, they just haven't written the check yet. That being said, we are very close to finishing the design of that sanitary sewer so that we can get the permits to be able to install it, because these people want to be able to tie in. We have, once we get that permit, the contractor then would be hired to put that in, and we'd be using the escrowed funds to pay him, and then each of the property owners would get some funds back. Any left over, they would be equally sharing that. Now that just puts the sewer in, and of course the property owners would have to pay for the actual connection into the sanitary sewer from their property. That's abandoning their septic field and then tying into the sanitary sewer. So they would have to pay the village tap fees to be able to do that, and their contractor to tie them in. Keep in mind that all of those property owners have already prepaid the Commerce Township taps. So there are no tap fees owed Commerce Township, just the village itself. So that being said, before we go out and actually have that sewer put in, I think we need a motion from council to discuss this, and I think the executive committee or the administrative committee should probably discuss that with the rest of you.
So, and let me make sure I'm up to date with where we've gotten since we had our discussion. So 2 of them have now paid into escrow. The other two indicated interest but have not actually paid.
Correct.
And when would we be doing the actual, or when would the contractor be doing the actual work?
The intent is to do it in the next 30 to 60 days to actually, 30 to 60 days to actually have the sewer put in. We will need to have the owners sign an easement to allow us to do that because we're going to be on private property. So we'll have a permanent 20-foot easement over the sanitary sewer and a temporary 40-foot easement to be able to allow the contractor to have access to be able to actually install the sanitary.
If only the two have committed and the other two decide not to, I don't know, is that something that they could be forced into doing, or?
That's a Jennifer issue, but without,
I mean, I
in a
have
special
to-
assessment district, I don't believe they can be forced into.
I didn't think
I
so
have
either.
to look at your ordinance.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
what-
you
But-
could put it some type of restriction on the deed, not a restriction on the deed, but lien on the property.
No, because they're complying now, and since, it would be so foolish, I mean, it's just like what we did, we ran those lines down the street, now whenever you're ready, hook up. And even if they don't hook up for 4 or 5 years, or if they hook up in 4 or 5 weeks, it's there. And for $8,000 not to put in, oh geez.
Yeah.
My other recollection of a point of discussion that I just don't remember, I think we were still looking for the answer there. Is there in our current ordinance a punitive if you don't donate to the extension of the sewer, not being part, but it not being an SAD, just our extension, your voluntary extension? Is there any penalty for the tap fee at that point?
It's actually worded a little differently than that. The actual tap fee for the Village of Wolverine Lake is $4,500 per RU, per residential equivalent unit. If the property owner assists financially in extending the sanitary sewer, that tap fee is reduced to $1,500. So there is a major benefit for them participating in the construction of the sanitary sewer. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
When you say extension of the sanitary sewer, are you talking only laterals or are you talking main? What do you?
Well, I'm talking about the section of sewer that would be dedicated to the village as a public main, not an extension to their building.
Okay, no laterals.
Correct. No
just
laterals,
main.
just the
Okay.
main.
Just
That is
wanted to
correct.
clarify.
Only that section that would be dedicated and owned by the village.
Okay.
That being said, we also talked about the potential that there'd be a shortfall of funds if every property owner doesn't participate. And that's, we kind of talked with Mike a little bit, and he can discuss this a little bit more. One option would be for the village to front that fund, knowing that the reimbursement would take place at any time when the tap was actually made. Not only would they be paying the additional tap fees, but then their pro rata share of the actual construction cost of the sanitary sewer. So, and certainly Mike and Sharon can discuss that as well.
And so to capture up then, if they contribute to the escrow for paying it at the time that we extend it, it's $8,000. If they don't and need to tap in later, and they will presumably at some point, that property will at some point, be it 1 year or 20 years in the future, tap in,
Right.
then it would be $8,000 plus the $3,000 extra towards the village tap fee.
Correct.
So there is a definite financial benefit to them
Would there be any interest?
paying for it now.
There'd be
while
a
it's
plus
being-
interest too, wasn't it? Because we fronted the money for them to have
Well,
it.
so here's the thing though, Ed, it's not because, at least I don't think it is, because the financial penalty is from paying the $4,500 tap fee for not having paid for extending,
Oh, okay.
for not having participated in the extension
Right.
at the time of the extension.
And that money would come back to the village.
That money would come back to the village
Oh, yeah,
regardless.
so that would be more than adequate.
More than
Right. So I think that's plenty of motivation there.
Mhm. I think so.
I agree.
Mike, you have no comment there? So,
So a motion would be in the amount of $16,000, correct?
Potentially, depending on.
Up to
up to.
$16,000.
$15,000 to the construction of a main to the northeast corner of the Panhandle
to service the 4 properties. I would like that, to make that motion.
Well, wait, I thought,
Let's get the motion, and then we'll go back in discussion.
oh, okay, I
So-
didn't know we were making, I thought it was going back to the administrative committee.
No, we have
I'll
to do
second it.
something
Yeah.
tonight. So
Okay.
we have a motion from Stack, a
Second.
second from Nedrow, to front from the village up to $16,000 towards the construction of that main, so it can be done
To serve the 4
to serve the
properties.
4 properties in the northeast corner of the Panhandle.
So 16,000's already been paid by those 2 property
Yeah,
owners.
not to exceed.
And this is
Yeah.
another $16,000. We have
Yeah.
$32,000, which only half of it's covered, that's why we're gonna.
Yeah, so we already have half of it already paid for, so those other 2 people have done it. It's by far the most sensible time to do
Mike?
it. We expect the other ones to contribute, but we want to make sure that it gets done now while it's sensible.
2 questions, Mike Condick. Have they indicated that they are going to pay, or they have physically paid $8,000 each already?
So 2 have already paid, right?
Yeah, and apparently the other 2 it's still uncertain, so.
Okay, what I was getting at is if they go, well, hey, the village is gonna do it, and then we don't have to put out nothing now, because I'm gonna sell this joint in 2 years anyway. So I wanted to make sure that 2 are totally 100% committed, they can't back out, and their money's there.
That'd be correct.
Okay, so the other 2, and then the other option is if we don't do the other 2, when the time comes that they should want to do it, then they're going to have to extend that stub, and they're going to have a much greater cost than us doing it.
No, we can't tie any of them in without this extension.
Okay, all right,
It's all or nothing.
We gotta do it.
all right. So that makes sense then to do that. I just wanted to make sure that the other 2 said, well, wait a minute.
Wait a minute,
Why
we don't have
why
to
should I
do this
give you
at all.
$8,000 if I can just?
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
No, there's definitely a financial incentive for them to do it now, but we want to make sure that the other 2 people who really want it and need it now get serviced.
yep. I'm surprised that,
Okay, so everybody clear on the situation?
Yep.
What we're doing here?
Yes.
All right, roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Thank you, council.
Thank you,
Mr.
council.
Powell.
If, I will sit down and turn it over to you guys.
And many more to go still are on item 12A. But next at bat.
Yeah.
Our architect Dave Dowland, who has had an adventurous month.
Yes, for the last 30 days, we've gone through the worst of times and the best of times. As I
And the worst of times again.
The worst, somehow quoted that way somewhere in the past. And then, as you look at the agenda items, the field report of December 1st is really a series of several site visits to follow up on the problems that occurred with the leaking roof and during the construction. And if you look around you, you can see that the contractor, ACS, jumped on the issue very quickly, and they understood that this room had to be completely repaired. And I looked around, and in comparison to the mess that was here on the 24th, this room is looking pretty good, all right? But that does not negate the fact that we had that problem. They came in, they got their insurance company involved, they got the repair contractor involved, the repair person did all the cleanup. ACS actually did the drywalling and painting and things like that. So really, the field report is frequent visits to follow up on all those issues to make sure that they were doing things correctly and covering all the detail. And they came in, they took out drywall, both on this level and the upper level. They checked for moisture content. They did the cleanup. They extracted the water. They brought in heaters. They had a special transformer to take the power out of a panel to run their heaters, as opposed to plugging them in the wall. They knew enough to go right back to the panel. In the observations of the field reports, and it kind of carries over into the roofing report, which is the issue of what to do with that roof out there.
Okay, so let's make sure we go through
One at a time.
Issue by issue, make sure everybody's clear on where we are. So is everybody clear on what we had with the water situation down here? What we've got, and ready to move on to the roof?
Yeah.
Yeah, the reports, any more questions about the report? The trips, the multiple trips and the
No,
multiple
not
observation? Okay,
Pretty straightforward.
all right. With regard to the roofing repair, by virtue of the fact that the addition was installed, they had to peel back the EPDM roof in order to secure that portion of the curbing on the existing concrete deck. It's a precast concrete deck that's on the original part of the building, not this addition here, but on the original part. They had somehow did whatever they thought was necessary to secure the parapet portion of it by peeling the roof back and setting it upright. We found out that the roof does not sheet flow from the east side of the building to the west side of the building. It actually flows to the northwest corner. The question is, in the condition of the roof, the age of the roof, the continuous ponding. When I say ponding, it's really more bird bathing. It's not full ponding. You're not talking about 6, 8, 10 inches of water. You're talking about 1 inch of water and maybe 2. Well, when the addition was put on, our drawings even showed the need for a cricket to steer the water southwesterly to get it off the roof. It's pretty clear by how the water came in that they did not secure the roof properly at the end of the day. And it's their contractor's responsibility. And that water poured in this corner right here behind you where the flags are. And it just filled this room. The contractor made some reference to the fact that much of the water came in another location with regard to the back doorway. We don't see evidence of that. In terms of when we got here, what the police officer saw over the weekend, the rain event was the 23rd, Sunday, in the morning of the 24th. And on the morning of the 24th, Sharon was back here, other people were here. And so that's why their insurance company came in and took care of the problem all the way. But it did make it very clear that because the roof didn't flow in the direction that would, you can't go up there and the fact that it would do anything other than sheet flow as opposed to point flow to this corner. So we thought, we gotta resolve this problem. So the roofing report is discussing options for correcting the problem. We know that the cricket is part of the original work. The cricket really should be bigger, and even if you made the cricket bigger, you still haven't solved the ponding problem because of the pitch of the roof. Then they got into a form of re-roofing, and then a form of, the third option was to actually deck it, create that 1/4 inch per foot that would actually permanently resolve the so-called issue of any bird bathing and the water would get off the roof. Just to make sure that the price that ACS has given is in the ballpark, we asked a couple other companies to also give us their assessment of what they would do to this 1,600 square feet of flat roof. One is Roy Roofing and the other one is Spencer Roofing. We have in your packet Spencer Roofing is the alternate one. And their price is very similar to ACS's price, which is $18,960. And Spencer is $18,700. So we know, and then there's the issue of warranty. And I don't know the answer to the ACS warranty just yet. I know in previous conversations with the cricket would have been done by the contractor's subcontractor, Mike Pierce, who put that roof on originally, and he was going to continue to warrant it. Now we have the issue of, if we decide to do the whole roof under ACS, do we have a warrant? Is it going to be warranted for 20 years? That has to be checked, and it can be. In fact, I would suggest that whatever motion we might make tonight with regard to the roofing, it would be subject to a couple of things, all right? That's important. So, tonight's discussion on the roofing, I'm open to any questions you might have with regard to the three options that were presented. Now, I didn't talk about the first one, which had to do with a kind of a roof drain in that corner. The contractor had thought because of the concrete deck, they didn't even give a price for it, and they thought it was too difficult to do. If you read my reports, I'm kind of discounting that also. Although parapeted roofs have sumps. It's a legitimate way to solve a roof drainage problem. The half cricket is the 10,000, 10 to 11,000, and a full replacement of the roof and a brand-new full warranty is the third proposal from ACS and Spencer. Now the question is, how do we go about making that decision, and how do we go about choosing one of these two? Maybe we don't necessarily choose ACS, maybe Spencer would be better. Sharon has expressed to me, in her experience, that Spencer is a very good contractor. They're in the neighborhood, he lives in town, and that might be an option. So we need to I'm open to questions, let's discuss it, the whole issue of roofing.
Right, well, and one thing, everything's gonna come west. I was up on the roof the other day, so they're gonna direct it off the roof going west, but then we have.
Who's, let me.
Or they would be.
Who's they? ACS?
When I was up there with Spencer.
Oh, with you with Spencer.
And with
Okay.
the roofing contractor, so everything, and with Mike Paul, so everything would be going west. And regardless of what we do.
Actually, southwest.
Southwest.
Yes.
Regardless of what we do, we'll have to put up the commercial gutter, which also isn't included in any of the costs, correct?
Oh, the
Anywhere,
commercial,
is there-
the commercial gutter is in the original ACS contract.
It isn't, okay,
Oh,
from
yes.
back there, okay.
Oh, yes.
All right.
That roof, that little roof over the back staircase
Had that.
is in the contract. It had the gutters. That's
With
in the
one
contract.
downspout, two downspouts, or?
It was one downspout, but I was
Okay.
talking to him about two, and.
Okay, all right, yeah. I didn't
Because
know, 'cause I know that-
actually, Andy Stone, Andy, he and I had these conversations too about, he's got to maintain the building.
Right.
And he would prefer to.
Be a lot of water.
I prefer to, because,
Yeah.
because it's, a lot of water was coming out this northwest corner over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And you know all the problems we've had with that for 25 years, really. So it's going to happen in the other direction. So we're going to, our recommendations are, get enough gutter and get enough downspout to take care of it.
Dave, when this project first came to council, redoing this building, we were told by you and others that the roof was in excellent condition and we wouldn't need a roof. Now, when we had that, after that big rain and there was still water up there, I noticed in the garage over here that there were leaks in the roof that were never there before. And typically, that roof, I'm not sure how long that roof had actually been up there, but, and like I said, everybody said, oh, the roof is fine, we don't need a new roof. But all that work was being done up there and all that construction, walking back and forth, and there was no plywood laid. So if you drop a hammer, a 2x4 falls, a guy steps on it, I think a lot of the leaks that we're getting outside the edge were self-inflicted by the contractor.
Okay.
Because I was standing in there talking to him, and the water was dripping on me in the car, in that room. And both the DPW guys said, it's never leaked there before. And I don't know if...
May I?
Go ahead.
Clarify a couple of points, because I'm agreeing with you and I'm sharing with you that the roof over the garage is at a higher elevation and completely separate from the roof over the original offices.
Right.
Okay? And yes, they had to do some work up there. They actually had to shovel some stone aside. It's a ballasted roof. They were walking along there, and we informed the contractor, ACS, yes, we got to keep checking this out until we resolve where the leak is and get it repaired. Because workmen are up there. I didn't see any droppings of screws or nails
No.
or this or.
But just,
But, let me
just
share,
the weight of one.
but there was on
Yeah.
the roof over the office, by the way. I saw droppings on that roof over the office. That was very unacceptable, and I advised the contractor the same. So back to the roof over the garage, I'm agreeing 100%. They have to check it, we have to get it resolved. They're not walking off this job without getting it resolved. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Well, that's one of my concerns, but also, when we were told that the roof was okay, it was the roof over the other part of the building. So now we're looking at what, $13,000-$14,000 to redo a roof that we originally told was in good shape, correct?
The original roof was in good shape. It had about 5 or 6 years on a 20-year roof. Ponding, bird bathing, takes a few years out of a roof. As I said in my report,
Yep.
I started out with the concept, roofs are the worst element of any building. They take the most maintenance, the most care is necessary to watch them. So, yes, that roof was in good condition and should have lasted, but it would always have ponding on it. So these proposals are an attempt to remove the ponding. And then we have to decide which of the two options, 50%, 100% re-roofing, and which contractor, ACS or Spencer's, is the way I'm looking at it tonight. And there is a cost to it, yes there is. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for me, and it's gotta be frustrating for you.
And you had mentioned a sump.
The what?
You had mentioned a sump, a possibility of using a sump up there. I mean, that would probably.
A drain.
A drain.
Yes.
And did they quote that
No, they did not.
whatsoever?
No, they did not.
Because I'm just
And then-
thinking if we have 5 years left on the roof and you've got an option of pumping the water out of there.
Oh, okay, it's not a sump like you have in a basement.
Okay, all right.
They use the word sump for a
Okay.
roof drain that the water falls down into.
Okay.
But
it's like
it would be a
drain.
drain,
All right.
either a vertical drain that would put it right through the concrete deck and then bring it horizontally out to the west elevation and then down onto the ground. Or it would be, there's an opportunity to do what would be a parapet wall horizontal drain. It only drops down about 4 to 5 inches. So really you're taking out the top layer of the concrete deck. The concrete deck, I gotta use both hands to explain. Concrete deck is a piece of concrete about that wide, about this deep,
And it's hollow.
and there are hollow cores in it. So we would pick one of those hollow cores, because in between those hollow cores is where the steel is to give the deck structure.
Right.
Not in that thin layer where the core is. So we would take one of those out to put it in, okay? I don't know why they chose not to do that one. It's a difficult one. That has a potential of leaking, that has a potential of breaking. It's, the current technology is all Schedule 40 PVC as opposed to the old cast iron.
Mm-hmm.
It has to go through the ceiling of the new addition to get to the outside wall. It would just be, it's just
How far
better
would-
to have surface drainage.
How far would that have to travel, 2-3 feet, or like 6-8 feet? To get that pond out of the bird bath?
Oh, no. Even if you put the drain in,
Yeah.
bird bathing is still there.
Still there.
Even if you put the partial cricket in that was in the contract, bird bathing is still there.
Okay.
Even if you do half of the improvement, a portion of the bird bathing is still there.
Yeah. The
Because
center of
it's-
the roof. had about an inch, inch and a half of water.
And it does, right, I was up there tonight, it still does.
Yeah.
It's now frozen, but it still
Right.
does.
Now, Dave, you're saying that we're 5 years into a 20-year roof right now.
I believe you are, that's the way I.
And you're also stated that the ponding or bird bathing is going to relinquish a couple of years off of it.
That's right.
So essentially, I mean, we've got 13 years left on, somewhere in that area, on this roof. If we do nothing,
Right,
is that what you're saying?
right. Well, if you gotta, we have to put a cricket in. The cricket that's in the contract's not big enough, it should be at least half the roof.
Okay.
And that's about
So you
$10,000,
think we got
$11,000.
13 years left on that?
It's option B,
And-
then, is what you're saying.
And under the.
But he's saying that we have to have cricket in there, which is going to be about $10,000.
Yep.
Which is your option
Roof
B,
is 13.
correct? That's your option
Oh,
B,
it's 18.
as you've written it here then, right?
But we're 5 into it already, so.
So we'd have a roof with 20-year warranty, half a roof with 15-year warranty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the difference is, now, we've gotten all these change of orders. That's part of this that you're talking about now, right? Because that's in one of these.
No,
That's-
the roofing repairs is not even one of those.
Okay, all right.
It's separate.
So
That is
what,
a contract.
What you're-
They
what you're
could not-
saying is that
There's
if-
no resolution of that, of the roofing issue, and they could not even have put it on the agenda.
Yeah, we don't get a change order until we decide what we want to do about it.
Correct.
So the basics is that if we put the cricket in to relieve some of that, you're looking at, what, approximately 8,000, something like that?
Yeah.
10.
Ten.
And a whole new roof
395.
with no bird baths, flat and everything is 18.
19,000.
And it'll be
19.
put in correctly, with the
Yes.
proper
Oh.
pitch, so we won't have to worry about the warranty issues or,
Absolutely, everything else.
yeah, that makes sense.
You have a brand-new building, and now another question is, do you do a temporary roof repair, or do you do a full roof repair and make the two fit together? It's not an easy decision, folks, and I know that.
I am a little disappointed that when the contractor came and looked at the building and walked around on the roof, that wasn't something that in the back of his mind knew that needed to be done. Because we were led to believe that there was nothing wrong with the roof that we had on this building.
And part of that is my observations. I've only been doing architecture about 40 years, and that roof, to me, was under warranty and in good condition, and it sheet flowed. It didn't sheet, the pattern is so slight that it doesn't sheet flow, it flows to a corner, this corner right here. And that triggered all of this discussion, really, it really has. And I'm sorry, but, you know, even a professional observation didn't catch that really minor thing. And we're not into going up there with tripods and.
Well, when you put the roof in 5 years ago or 6 years ago, whoever put it in, you would have expected that it would have been properly put installed at that
Right.
point.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't know why they didn't discuss it then, because it would have been tapered insulation back then. So, and now let me share with you the techniques between the two contractors. ACS is proposing a wood frame structure to give you positive drainage, and then a new sheet of insulation to take on the new EPDM roof. There's a void there. If there is any leak at all, it's going to be between two sheets of EPDM, what's on the roof now. There has to be an opportunity for observation of that problem. They did not represent any venting. Again, they jumped on this with a proposal, and I'm now reviewing it all with them, and it's not acceptable. I've got 6 or 7 other questions that have to be answered in order to do the work. Spencer went right to complete tear-off, tapered insulation, which is an expensive item, and putting a brand-new roof on with a full 20-year warranty.
We aren't comparing an apple to an apple in
No,
the same.
But
goods.
but
The cost is the
with
same
my 40
installation.
years in the business, Spencer's got
That's the way to go.
He's done it right.
Because once you have an airspace or a void, you could have a leak over here that doesn't drip till it gets over there. So you're over there looking for, it's dripping over here, but the leak is over here. No,
And
no,
it will
that's-
happen. If it leaks, do you know where the water's going?
And
The
Least
low part
resistance.
of the roof, right?
Right
back to
yeah.
where it was. I went through this morning and he said that it-
Well, I'm sorry, that, this is the answer. The answer is, I believe, complete tear off, tapered insulation, and a quality contractor.
Well, I used to do work exclusively for Herman Franco. And that guy always told me, he said, you do a good roof and a good foundation, I can fix anything in between.
And I,
think
my observations are
as-
similar.
As much as everybody knows that I was not an advocate of this whole project anyway, and how radical we went with it, I don't want to see it to be done slipshod.
Thank you.
So you got to do something with the roof. Patching it up will just mean you'll be back up there in another 5 or 6 years. So on this one, I would make a motion that we bite the bullet and have, spend the money to have Spencer Roofing come in and do what they did for their estimate. And I've lost the page. What's the-
18.7 plus the 1,000 for
For the
the
warranty.
warranty, 19.7.
And
19.7.
So we have a motion, Sinkowitz, second Stack.
As presented.
Further discussion.
yeah, and Dave Wilson, which came out, which is a certified installer, he said that we would have a minimum R factor of 20 on the roof. He will get all the numbers for us, but he says it'll be in excess of 30 in other areas. Right now, what did we? Two. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
it is. You're right.
so it'll be a huge difference when this is done. I mean, just our energy bill
Yeah.
alone will.
I agree.
And-
I'm happy
and
for
what-
it.
I mean, you
We're gonna do it.
don't,
Right.
there, unfortunately, the only choice is who you're gonna have do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're between a rock and a hard place to do all that work and let it go, and then, you know, move that bucket
Then have
over here because
problems
it's
here, yeah.
dripping on a micro.
And I think it does kind of explain or speak to some of the problems we've had on this back wall before historically.
I want to address that, but I don't know if this is the time or not, so I think maybe,
Allow me one more comment then, with regard to your choice, and that would be my recommendation too. And that, sometime you're setting in. I'm sorry, I lost it.
well, if
I have to come back
if you
to it.
find it, come back to
We've
it.
got it, we've got Spencer. we
You'll be
want to
here
move
for a
the
while.
mile.
That's what it is.
Yep.
We must, Spencer said, and I agree, and Mike said, they have to finish the metal roof, let ACS finish their work over there, up there in the next 1 or 2 weeks, and get off the roof completely and
Yeah,
let
oh,
Spencer come on.
definitely, yeah.
Right.
That was my comment.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
we need to do that.
Makes sense.
Dave, that if we go with dispenser with the total new roof, the crickets are not gonna be required?
No, his
And
tapered
so-
insulation takes care of all of
Okay,
that.
so we would get, there was a small, short cricket in there to begin with from the contractor, so basically, they would not install that.
Correct.
And there's some credit there.
There's some credit there.
Okay.
It's a good point.
Okay.
Okay, motion, further discussion on that?
Can I comment
Oh,
real quick?
yeah, sure.
Dave, do we have a date for the roof? And the reason I ask is today I opened up my little storage space above the office and the sun was shining in and I was a little concerned due to all the weather we've had recently.
I haven't got to find out where the roof is.
It's right at the peak, is where I can see, I mean, it was pretty obvious, there's a 2-inch gap all the way across the top.
When's the metal roof gonna be installed?
Yeah.
Oh, next week. They're supposed to be doing next
Okay.
week. And there's supposed to be a vent.
Supposed to be nice
There's
weather,
supposed to be
Chief.
sun coming in.
Okay,
But
well,
it's-
there is.
But yes and no. Sorry.
No, I-
The
I get what
ice
you're
and water
saying, the
shield
cap is
should be
supposed to
over it.
But it's not right now.
Okay.
I'm just a little concerned of some of the stuff that's stored up there. I just happened to notice that when I was getting my Christmas cards out today.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
further discussion on the roof? Roll call vote?
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Daggy?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Staff?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council. All right, back to the agenda here. Next up, field visit 12-4 and sighting report.
The field site visit, December the 4th, is a continuation of looking at some of the roofing problems, plus observations with regard to the other parts of the construction, as it says in the report. I don't know if you have any questions about any of the observations.
Anybody have any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
All right, then let's go to sighting report. That, we've got sighting report. 11,
The
12.
siding report is, in change order 23, are the two elements that really go together.
Okay.
This particular building, and the way the
Are we looking at
technology
change order
was
23
at the
now?
time
Yep.
it was remodeled 25 years ago. You have a disaster occurring by drip. There's little bits of leaks everywhere that could never be discovered until you remodeled. So to a certain degree, remodeling was a blessing in disguise. And the pictures prove that it's everywhere. Just, I don't know what else I can say. However, I do want to say something else. The 34 that's in change order 23 and the previous 5,000, 40,000. ACS has been pretty fair with their pricing, and I believe if you discovered that problem and they started to take away repairs in one area and then started peeling the whole building, they would have found everything that ACS has found in their work, but it would have cost you 3-5 times as much, easily. And then they would have put back the same of what you had, they would have flashed it a little differently, and you wouldn't have had the new design. So it is a combination.
So let me see if I can sum up with this. So it got me to do a little bit more reading about the sort of artificial stucco we have up there, the EIFS, which this is apparently a problem it's had in other locations, in other places. Much though we had a lot of discussion about whether or not to do the outside, it was in some ways fortunate that we're doing it now. We're getting it while it's just rotted, but we haven't discovered a mold problem. We haven't discovered a much more extensive, have to pull off all of the exterior completely. We've got a lot of rotting there.
They peeled back to good wood, and they replaced everything with good wood.
So what we've got up there is good. We're gonna have hardy board on the outside.
Yes.
And I saw this, and at first I was like, oh, man, because we were coming in pretty good on budget, 35,000. I was not pleased about, but I think it's good that I think what it shows me is that we were right to get it fixed and get it fixed now. That this was a problem that it was underneath there, it was lingering, it was only going to get worse. Had we kicked it down the road farther, continued with patching, I think we would have had worse problems.
Yeah, a lot of serious issues were sitting in. I mean, and when they patched in the past, our bubbles and that popped up in the center of the walls, not on the corners where all the damage was, that stayed tight. However, the water got in behind it, and I came through and saw some of the damaged wood, and I mean, you put your finger right through it. I mean,
The one by the front door was like coffee grounds. I
left
could not
whatsoever. I
believe.
mean, there was nothing left to it. The timing on this was very good to get into it.
Yep, we got all that was left out of that exterior, and probably a little more than we should have.
Yeah.
Do you see any more hidden things?
No,
Do you think this, we've revealed everything now? If that's the way to put it? Or
And the
we
reason
find
it's-
something more when we start tearing this roof off?
Concrete.
Concrete, that's
Yeah, it's
right.
a
It's on the
concrete.
roof.
In in the process, they couldn't tear everything off simultaneously. The carpenters are working their way around the building. After the initial repairs of these wing projections, they just started taking pictures and collecting. And that's what this represents, a completion. Right on through, right up that, they got around back over here to the
Right.
ramp and that little parapet.
The discovery portion is over.
Yes.
That's what, that's the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It better
Yeah.
be.
So the discovery portion is over. We've got good wood all around. We've got good hardy board over it. We now have a solid building again.
Yes.
Every time I shake my head.
The
I love
one,
you.
the one,
I have a hard time
The
not
one
smiling
comment-
at you, John.
Yep, let me go to Ed.
comment I wanted to make is that when this project came in and we were gonna be someplace under $400,000, for two of you weren't here, but the rest of us, I said, whenever you're doing a renovation, you can add 20%. And when we get done with this, we're gonna be over $500,000, I guarantee you. I guarantee you. This building will be over $500,000. Because you're right now adding, just tonight, we're gonna add $70,000, $88,000 to the project on all these things that come in here. And the point I'm making is that I didn't know, I had nothing to do with who the contractor was, but to go through a building and do a building, especially with stucco on it, whether you're gonna redo the stucco or we were gonna take it off and put hardy plank on, which I think was we all agreed that that was the way to go. That he didn't do due diligence looking around, because some of that stuff, you could have gone underneath there, just like on a boat, you buy a wooden boat, you go around, you poke around the keel and around to see if there's rotten wood. With a screwdriver, he could have, around those windows, did anything. And he didn't do due diligence, and now he's coming back and we're paying the bill. And I think we should be very critical on the amount that we pay him, because a lot of this was undetected and not brought to our attention is his fault. Because I don't think he made, now, some of this up here was a surprise, but that stuff around there, that shouldn't have been any surprise, because when you look at how it was rotten, he could have gone in there with a screwdriver and just put right through and maybe hit Mike in the back when he was in his office. And nobody did that. We just assumed. We assumed the roof was good. We assumed that it drained, and we assumed that, and the electric, and we assumed about the heating and the cooling and everything. And all these assumptions are coming back at a tune of well over $100,000 to this project. That's it.
Okay, further discussion about what we've got here, which is change order 23. Let's talk about that one. That one in front of us. I think we're agreed. We need to do it. Glad to have it done. Do I hear a motion to approve change order 23 in the amount of $34,074.50? Motion Duff, second Stack. Further discussion on the motion. Roll call vote.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yep.
Duff?
Yes.
Staff?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Medrow?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
No.
All right, motion carries. Where are we next here? Yeah, okay, so we're through siding report. Well, let's go progress billing number 5, and then let's go to change orders, just because that's the order.
I was just gonna ask you, are you gonna do the other change orders too?
Let's do the other change orders, and then let's do progress building. So let's call that at the end of this, the field visits. Let's do the change orders, and let's do progress building. So, is that good with everybody? So,
Mr. President?
Yep.
I wanted to comment on some of the structural work that was done outside here on the concrete. The change orders don't have anything onto that. Could we do that now? Would that be?
yeah, let's
under
do
this
it now. Our
building?
first one says dig footing, pour cement, and block. I would call that structural. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay. Part of the problem, in fact, I think most of the problem, is our building inspector. We've had many, many comments about him, and other council members have indicated the same displeasure with him. Commerce Township, their ordinance says that when you put in a basement, you put a drain field around it, a drain tile. our building inspector on our building in his community where he works and gets paid said we didn't need it. And his reasoning was, well, the water table's at 12 feet and the basement's at 8, what do we need a drain field for? Well, a drain field is put in not to collect water, it's to remove water away. Now, did we tar the outside of that building?
Yes, it is.
Well, the water table's 12 feet, why did we bother tarring it? That's stupid, we could have saved money. The problem is that when a basement is put in, the hole is usually 3 feet bigger all the way around than the actual wall, so people can work. For probably maybe $200 or $300, and there is an existing drain field around this building now, you put a corrugated pipe, throw some pea gravel over it, and then you fill the hole back in. Now, the hole you're filling in is the annulus between where you dug and the outside of the basement wall. You're filling that in very loosely, because if you fill it in too tight, you're gonna cave in the wall of the basement. And that's a real problem. So, what happens? Water seeks the path of least resistance. Every time it rains, there's gonna be anything that's on the ground, anything that's frozen, anything that hits the side of the building that doesn't go in and runs down that wall and lands on that footing. That's the room that's supposed to be the equipment room, storage. And there's no sump and there's no drainage. And to me, that is, again, showing the lack of common sense. If common sense was so common, why isn't it more common with our building inspector? I just don't understand it. And Dave and I had a discussion on it, and, you know, he said, well, the code says if you do this or do this. The house on the island that was built 2 years ago, Graham's, he's about 16 feet above the water. He's got a it's not there to stop water coming up from the ground, it's there to get the water away from the footing. And he didn't install it. And again, now we've got a big project coming over there. I'm petrified scared to have him over there working with Redwood and trying to keep them on track, because they're a fast-moving group. And I just think it's, and that corner has been a problem for water forever. Right there behind my conduit. That it wasn't addressed. There's a crack in the wall and it wasn't repaired. So I'm willing to bet that, again, and when this is all done, you're gonna see dampness in that corner again, because the crack in the wall was not repaired when it was exposed. Now, I don't know who's responsible for that, but this is just, I don't want to use the word because I might get sued, but that's just a total lack of common sense not to put a footing drain in that building. And he's got a little sump in there, and all that sump is for is when it filled up with water, when it rained, he pushed it in with a broom, then pumped it out of the building. And the contractor, when I talked with him, when I came here after the rainstorm, he had, basically, I don't know if it was in the bid or not, but he had intentions that a drain would go in there, and he was told it wasn't necessary. So it's okay, you don't need it. But I still think very strongly that we have to do something about our building inspector.
Okay, let me ask Dave to address the drain field issue.
I agree with Ed in terms of the situation where there's a lot of locations that you need drain fields, damp proofing, or even in some situations you need waterproofing. The Michigan Building Code is actually based upon the National Building Code, all right? And there are situations where the soils are such that you don't even need damp proofing, all right? And it's pretty clear that some of the things that Ed mentioned about the water table and the soils would alleviate the need to install waterproofing or damp proofing or even the drain tile. Michigan, 90% of the time, you put in drain tiles, and if it was caught, if it was understood, if it was discussed, They should have come back to me. I should have understood what was going on, and we would have made the appropriate decision. However, the code is very clear. In the situation in this building, and in Michigan, were deposits from the Ice Age. So you can go 200 feet away from this building, and you'll find clay for the full 20 feet or whatever. I've had situations where I had a layer of clay, I was digging for a basement, and there was a layer of clay from the surface down, and everything below that was pure sand. That's the way Michigan is. That's the way the code is, Chapter 18 is written that way, that if you have certain soil conditions, certain things are not necessary. And those three things are either waterproofing, damp-proofing, or the drain tile. It's just that it's so uncommon in Michigan, it's always natural to try and just to put those in. But fortunately, this building, the existing sump is under the furnace, and there's no sump pump. The drain tile, the crack in the wall is entirely different than the issue of the drain tile. That crack in the wall, if there was a lot of water coming down to the footing, there'd have been water in the sump, and you would have known it and seen it, all right? So the situation here is fortunate. We don't have to have damp proofing or drain tile. The contractor did put the damp proofing on, and in the conversation with various people, he did not put in the drain tile. Will it be a problem? Professionally, I don't think so. Okay, but there's no certainty in everything. So that's all I can say. It meets code. It meets code.
So it meets code. Your professional opinion wasn't needed here. Obviously, belt and suspenders, you could have both, and it would be safer.
I had the same analogy.
Safer and better. And you're not seeing evidence from any of the rest of the building that there's a underground water issue.
Correct.
In that direction.
That's correct.
And I assume that ship has now sailed. It's been filled in. We have basement outside that we have.
Yes.
And it was not on the building plans to put the drain
Correct.
tile in. It was not there,
So
so.
it's not on the original building.
No.
Okay.
I just want to make one point clear. I'm not concerned about, I hope I made that clear, it's not the groundwater I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about
You're concerned
stormwater.
about stormwater. Yep.
So we'll see what happens.
We certainly will. We'll be in this building for a long time. Just one question about something that came up there. Crack in the concrete wall over here. Is this something that we should look at having repaired?
Somebody has to be more familiar with that crack than I am. Is it outside the existing basement? If it is, it's under the rooftop unit, or under the HVAC unit that's sitting out there. Do we know that, what side of this column is it on? If it's on the left side of the column, it's now in the basement.
I'm not familiar
You know,
there
what-
even being a crack.
Yeah, well, that's where that water had come in, and then remember the DPW one time dug it out, and they changed the pitch, or they tried to do something, but when we were talking back there, one of them mentioned that they saw, when they excavated, they saw it. And he said, I'm surprised somebody didn't fill that crack in. So I don't know where it was, but
I don't know.
maybe if you contacted DPW guys, because they were here, when they dug that, they might know where it is, but I think it's where it's accessible outside.
Let's see, Sharon, can you see if you can find out where the
Yeah,
crack
if it's something we can take care of.
was and is?
And I'll be on the phone with you, Sharon, and we can talk about it.
Moving on.
Okay, I think that brings us then to change order number 19. Dig footing, pour cement, and block at East New Entry, $1,035. Anything to add?
That's out in the front area. The part of the wall had to be revised. that left a very narrow area between the one planter and the planter that's dealing in front of the ramp. I asked them to fill in that area so we could just make it a planter,
Okay, so that
as
fits
opposed to a big, deep, narrow hole that's only about
Which
22
one are we
inches
at?
wide or something.
Got it. Okay, do I hear a motion on change order number 19? Motion Stack, second Duff, to pay change order 19 in the amount of $1,035. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, do you think it'd be easier just to go through, they just approve it in mass, or do you want to go individually?
Let's just work through them one at a time. I think it should be, most of these are really straightforward, so I think we can do that. And then if something comes up that's complicated, we can take our time.
Okay.
So, further discussion on number 19? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, let me get my change orders back in order here.
Number 21.
What happened to 20?
20 was already a previous one approved.
Okay, thank you.
So 21 next. Change order 21 in the amount of $4,542.50 for AC work.
Out in the back of the building here, next to the stairway, there were 2 condenser units on concrete pad. The drawings call for them to remain and the contractor to take care of them. My observation was not acceptable. They had to remove them. As a result, all the freon, all the work, moving them, they're redoing the slab now, and this was the expense, both mechanical, architectural, and grading.
All right, questions? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Nagy, second Duff, to pay order 21 in the amount of $4,542.50. Further discussion?
Yeah, who is this to? Is this to a heating contractor, or is this to our ACS?
ACS is paying the contractor, you see.
So ACS got a subcontractor in to do the work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yep.
All right, change order 22 in the amount of $8,487 for additional carpentry work, exterior window work.
In the original drawings, again, the windows were going to be boxed out. We were anticipating that we could not do the box out, just replace the windows. And then we thought there was going to be no significant work in doing that. With all the rotting and other things, these windows upstairs and down here, the outside, instead of adding on, the windows were chipped out, cut out, and the work quadrupled.
So essentially, this $8,487 goes on top of our $35,000, $40,000 for
Correct.
rotted exteriors. Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion Stack, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second Scott, to approve change order 22 in the amount of $8,487. Discussion.
Dave, was this considerably more work than what they intended to do originally?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Now, I know
Actually,
that.
you actually got a credit in an earlier
Mhm.
change order. I don't have the exact number.
Okay.
And so, if you, it was like a $1,800 credit.
Because I feel that, replacing the rotted wood is a material cost. I mean, that's pretty much a given. But I'm just wondering that by doing that, it would have made it, the job of installing the windows a little simpler, because everything would be framed in and they could put it right into the size instead of making the window fit the opening. It's kind of the reverse. But
I'm not sure I would describe it quite like that. I see it more as, in the process of putting it in, they had to remove a lot of stuff that they were not anticipating. And that was all part of the discussion at the very beginning. When they were selected as the contractor, we went through this process of, well, what can we do? A few things to lower the cost.
Mhm.
And this was one of them, not boxing out, but just replacing them. And then they went into this whole process of the exterior problems associated with replacing them.
Further discussion?
is this the last one we have?
No, we got a couple more.
24,
24, 25,
6,
and
maybe.
I think 24 and 25 are.
Yes.
So, all right, seeing no further discussion, roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Change order 24, $897 to frame the AC unit.
Out on the east side of the building, under the new window that was put in the police department, there was an AC unit through the wall. It was off-center, with a nice pleasant image of the front of the building. I said, just add on to it a false front and make it that wide, instead of off-center this wide. Nobody will notice it. It'll be one of those natural
Okay.
improvements, and that's the cost.
And that AC units, there's no ductwork going into the police
Oh,
department?
no, there is. That's a
Okay,
through-the-wall
that's-
unit.
Right, I know, but has that one always been in place there?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't.
And the other one I
Never
know of-
noticed it until they did that, and then all of
Yep.
a sudden it stuck out like a sore
Because we
thumb.
put the window there.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
why
Just
it
to
stuck
give
out.
Captain Ellsworth a window,
Yep.
Say it again.
just to give him a window.
That's his fault.
This is the other one.
Well, no, the window was part of the aesthetics of the building.
I know, I used.
And it just happened to be his,
Yeah,
the
just-
dispatch
Remove
office.
it from the inside out.
Oh, I see. He wasn't listening. You want to repeat that?
I know, I'm not sorry.
Dave, are you comfortable that the units that we have are, or have they been, are we putting good money after bad in those units?
We're not.
I mean, have we had, a professional look at them and say, these units are archaic, they're not efficient? Because I was surprised that what we had was going to be enough to pick up all the extra space.
Okay, now, I think you're talking about two different things. One is the existing units
Right.
in the police department, and there's two of them.
Okay,
One on the east wall and one on the south wall.
so this is just for the police department we're talking about?
Yeah.
This is just
Okay.
one. The
boxes.
two that are on the new addition are adequate. Our engineer
Okay.
did the calculations, and those are adequate. And it's zoned, in a sense. By using that, it's zoned, so you can, when that room's not being used, you can just turn it down. You're not subject to a cold area here and the thermostat coming on and overheating an area that really doesn't need to be heated. That's a zoned area, so. But
Okay.
to answer your other question, do I know anything about those two? No, we did not do any research on them as to what their condition is or longevity.
Okay.
But if we replace them, it's a replacement in place in the same spot.
That's right.
Do I hear a motion to approve change order 24 in the amount of $897?
No move.
Support.
Motion Nedrow, second Stack. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Change order 25, $1,972.25. The heat runs into concrete doorway.
In the whole conference room and in the copy room, there were heat vents in the floor. When the new doors were going to go into the conference room, one of those were in the way and had to be rerouted, and I wanted it rerouted into the basement. The one, when after the contract was approved, and we said, oh, let's put another door in through the copy room so that people can get to the big room and not have to go through a conference going on in the small room. That heat vent was not part of the contract, nor was the return air vent for this furnace room. And so that's the cost of those two repairs.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Scott, to approve change order 25 in the amount of $1,972.25. Further discussion?
Okay, I think I have raised this question when we were talking about this addition. As far as the additional square footage that we have to heat and cool now, the existing system can handle it? We don't have any issues with overtaxing the existing system?
The only area that's being added that's taxing the system is the basement, and no, it's not overtaxing the present system. The main conference room has its own units.
Okay.
What's the current tonnage of the units?
Oh, I don't have that number in my head, I'm sorry. But again, my engineer calculated it, and he said 2.
Well, by my calculations, if we approve this like we've done in the last, we've just added close to $90,000 to the cost of this building.
45 of which is the skin problem, so I agree.
We might remember how much of a contingency we had in this project when we approved it?
Well, that was one of the issues. We approved right at the contract amount, so that's why we've had to come back for all the change orders.
And we're not done yet.
No, but I think we're done with the really true unpleasant surprises. I mean, I think the biggest thing was really the rotted wood that was what it was. Okay, so we have motion on the floor, change order 25, $1,972.25. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Did we run that number? Is it 90 or is it 71,000? I guess I.
So you got the roof.
Motion
Yeah,
Here was another 18.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do the math up here. We'll get a report on it.
All
back.
right. I see 51 plus the roof, but I guess I'm wrong. Find out.
Yeah, I come in, it seems to me it's more around 70, but.
Yeah, 71 too.
It's a lot of money.
Dave, can I ask you a
It's still a
question?
lot of money.
It's still a lot of money, absolutely. Dave, can I ask you one quick question, though? Along this fascia here, they replaced the lower wood with, it looks like 3/4 inch ply, womanized, correct? Did they put a vapor barrier between that before they regraded it? Or is it just right up against the womanized? It looks like they put the wool in and then they just put the dirt back up against the womanized wood there. I could be wrong, but it looks
Yes.
that way.
No, I'm not sure.
It did look that way to me too, but.
Yeah, it's
the
hard to
pictures
tell
kinda-
this.
yeah.
I mean, here's the
I
picture
know.
where you see it coming back in, but
I know I had a discussion with him about the, this entrance area, this north wall. The dirt and water flows right into the wall.
Yeah,
And we're gonna
I mean,
make sure it's regraded so that the swale is 3 feet out from that wall. So that from the wall, it comes
water's gonna
back
come in
this
here
way,
and
and the water
walk
goes.
its way right back in through here.
So I had that discussion, and that's flashed all the way down to the foundation. There's actually an aluminum flashing that whole distance, and then the trim was put on top.
Okay. Let's make sure this other one is correct. And anything else on the building tonight?
Yeah, like,
The progress report.
Oh, sorry, yes.
what we forget.
The request for payment.
Yep. ACS Build Inc., progress billing number 5 in the amount of $61,273.62.
I reviewed their request for payment. It's a progress payment for work they have completed. It does not include work on these change orders that have also been completed. So they're under billing, and we still have a retainer on top of that. And then I wanted to, at the same time, just note the schedule, that they're looking to finish up this month, except for the fact that I'm very concerned about the painting, and I'm gonna let that, I'm asking them to do that in the spring, because this temperature is not conducive to a good paint job.
No, and I don't care what
And-
materials they tell you can use, do not do it.
Concrete work, they're still doing concrete work, because you can heat the water, put additives in, and a variety of other things. You can cover over
Mhm.
it. That's okay, it's not that cold yet. But painting, anything below 40 degrees, and if you're not at 40 degrees or better for 24 hours, it's not worth doing. So I think we could, the material that's up there, I checked with Hardy, and it can withstand the winters without any prime. It is prime, but without any additional painting. That's no big deal. So they're looking to finish up. I'm hoping they finish up, especially the room and everything inside. And then that will be held off until spring.
Okay, so,
They'll do the caulking though, this, whatever caulking they can do this winter?
No.
Right now, or they're gonna wait till the spring to caulk?
No, they're gonna wait till spring to caulk on, so because.
They're gonna wait till spring to caulk?
Where
what you-
it needs to be caulked, again, the material, for one winter,
Yeah.
it's not an issue. It really isn't.
Now, are you talking about where two boards meet? Or
Yeah,
are you
just a
talking
butt
about
joint.
caulking around the windows and
Oh,
places?
no, that should have been done.
Okay.
No, that's just where
I
the
thought you
butt
meant
joint.
caulking
Anything touching metal
in
would
general.
be Caulked down,
Yeah.
anything touching wood.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
okay, so, and if I'm looking at this correctly, other than final clean interior and exterior, which actually would even still be around right at the end of the month, and the paint and caulking, we should be done by the end of the month.
Yes.
I'm gonna put
Yeah.
that-
Yes.
Should be. That's-
Then we all win.
That's
And if
where
you're
there's.
not-
You'll
get,
notice I said should, not will.
Well, yeah, well, since.
I wear those.
You wear the antlers next month when you give
Okay.
your
You
presentation.
you get the reindeer antlers in January if we're not.
The Lakes Area Youth Assistance Challenge.
Thank you.
Remind me to bring more money next time.
Okay, do I hear a motion to pay, go back, progress billing number 5 in the amount of $61,273.62?
I'll make the motion.
Motion
Support it.
Duff, second Stack. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
McKee?
Yes.
Greggy?
Yeah.
Duff?
Yes.
Stack?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Renfro?
Yes.
Ziegler?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank
Mr.
you,
President,
Dave.
before we
Before we
move
move
on.
on to the next, yes.
the next topic, Dave produced a new schedule. Now, this new schedule shows them they're a month behind the schedule that they issued 2 months ago. Now, how comfortable are you that this is gonna be done by the end of the month, number one? And number two, when they're done, and Spencer has to do their work, and how long, we never discussed how long it would take Spencer to do their roofing job. So when is this project be done? Okay, I mean, right now, they say it's gonna be.
Weather could affect Spencer, too.
Yeah, it could, I don't dispute that, but right now, it's scheduled to be done the end of December.
No, but I mean-
It was supposed to be done the end of November,
'Cause he
so
has
we're already a
some
month
time.
behind.
That's correct. We're a month behind, and you can see why. I mean, resolving the problem with the exterior of the building, this rain event put us all behind the eight ball.
They gotta put their foot to the fire to make sure they get done. We wanna get this thing done.
Yes.
I mean, this is,
I have a high confidence level, all the interior work will be done by the end of the month. I'm a little concerned about the roof.
Yeah, and I heard a couple of people mention probably the roof, because it will have to finish all this, be after all the stuff on this will actually be the last thing.
And the other thing is that the problem we had with the rain coming in here was the contractor's negligence.
Yes.
So, you know, I mean, he's picking up the tab, but it definitely put us
It put him
behind the schedule.
Be his own fault.
And that's why I was just concerned that, you know, everything he asked for, 8,000 here, 15 here, 34 here, and 34 here, I kind of think we should have squeezed a little bit in some of these places where It was more of like, oh, I didn't know I had to do that, or geez, I didn't know it was. It's done, it's done. Let's move on.
All right.
Christmas is coming.
Big agenda today. We've gotten through A. And that actually 2 hours. Yes, yes, please do. That actually brings us to a little jump forward to the second call to the public, because we are at 9 o'clock already. Opportunity for citizens to address the council regarding any and all village business. Anybody for second call to the public? Seeing none, I will close the second call and move on to item B, which Jerry, we put on item B, we thought we'd get there. West Oakland County Cable Communications, WACA. We've had some previous discussion about this. We asked the administrator and the attorney to do a little bit of investigation. So, actually, Sharon, let me ask you to present back to council what we found.
Well, we've talked with Jerry, we've talked with Tom Zoner, and Jennifer Oleski has given you information here that we can remove ourselves from WACA if we would like. But there are times that we can do that. And we've pulled the page of the original contract, which says we have to wait a while.
You can do it now.
Right.
But
But
won't
it
be
won't
effective
take.
until
It doesn't become
January.
effective till
January
next January.
2016.
Yes, yes, so it's a year.
And I think, Mike, did you do some investigation into the funding and what would happen with those original, whatever it is, the pot of?
Yeah, there's a couple issues there, Mr. President. One is the, if there is, and Jerry, I'm sure will elaborate on this, if there is some pending distribution of some of their cash assets or investments, I've heard the figure be somewhere around $150,000 or $160,000. If that's the case, based on our proportional share of that, which sounds like the will of the board, the will of the WACA board, would be to distribute in that fashion and not in the fashion that Jerry got us a few years ago, where, if you recall, we got $40,000. It was kind of split evenly between all of the members. If we've got $150,000, we are about 2% of the subscriber base, so that would probably be somewhere around $3,000. I can tell you also that our dissolution, or our if we part ways with WACA, the 2%, we continue to get the 5% franchise fee from Comcast. That turns out to be 10 grand a quarter, 40 grand a year, let's say. The 2% PEG fee, which PEG is the acronym for Public, Educational, and Government, that would also come our way. That would be approximately $16,000 a year. That would put us essentially equal to, it's the same situation that we have now with AT&T. AT&T is paying us the franchise fee and the PEG fee. That was by an action, I think, that the WACA board took when AT&T started to make inroads here. They just said, distributed to the different individual municipalities or constituents, members of the WACA board. Clear, or sort
So
of?
clear to me, I'm not sure if it's clear to everybody. So let me see if I can summarize, and correct me if I go wrong. So the WACA board would, of the pot of money they have right now, if we pull out they would distribute it, and they are still the majority of voting members there. They would distribute it based proportionally to what percentage we are of the overall subscriber base, which is about 2%. That ends up being about $3,000.
Correct.
We would then also, on a yearly basis, get this $16,000 a year in PEG fees that right now go to WACA. They would come directly to us.
Still correct.
Still correct. So, $3,000 in one-time payment, $16,000 a year going forward.
But understand, too, that if we bail out of WACA, that's it for any claim to the
Right.
distribution of the cash assets.
Yes, yes.
Right, so we would not be eligible for any further distributions if they break up in any of that.
We don't know.
Potentially.
Well, and here's where Jerry is now integral. I think the idea is that the WACA, the authority itself is going to continue, whether they it doesn't sound like they care very much whether we continue to participate or not. So I don't think they're going to dissolve.
That's correct.
It's just So I think that's what we've got here. So let's go to Jerry. Anything to add?
Yes, I do. The attorney took the agreement that was written in 1981. At that time, we did not have a franchise with a cable company. And it was a real, everything was happening at that time, and there were 3 or 4 cable companies that were bidding to build a system here. So what it really came down to was, they finally decided that if I'm gonna come in here and spend millions of dollars to put a cable system in southeast Michigan, I have to have some guarantee that I'm gonna have a base, I'm gonna have a customer base. So they lobbied, cable companies lobbied with the attorneys to come up with this intergovernmental agreement, which again, when they wrote it, we did not have a franchise agreement at that time. And to make this even stronger, that they were gonna get a base out of this, they wrote this agreement, and it said here, no party shall withdraw from this agreement for a period of 2 years from the effective date or the completion of the construction. Which meant that once we gave our okay to this governmental agreement, we couldn't back out of this. And to further guarantee that they were gonna have this base, they added on here, but such withdrawal shall not be effective until December 31st of the year of withdrawal, unless written notice of such withdrawal shall have been mailed to the authority or registered certified mail on or before July 1st of the year of withdrawal. You know, somehow, this was such an ironclad agreement, but it gave a cable company more confidence that they could come in here and have a customer base. So that's why everybody agreed to this agreement. But once they did come in, there was nothing to think about, because all the people in the area that got cable were able to take their aerials off the roof and throw away their rabbit ears, and for a fee of $19 a month, they had cable. So that's where that came from, where this agreement came from. It gave the cable company the teeth to really pursue and bid and build this cable system. Unfortunately, nothing was ever done about this agreement. It should have been either rewritten to modern day standards. It should have been, something should have been done with this, and it wasn't. We've been discussing this for the last 2 years, and we're still looking, but there is wording, and we're not sure if it was done at one of our meetings, that you only need a 30-day notice to get away from, or to opt out of WOCA. When this WOCA started, it was a wonderful, wonderful vehicle for all of us. It helped everybody. It gave us control over the money, and everything was working fine. But the last year or so, things have changed. You get new board members, they have different ideas. And I think I'm at the point where it's time for Wolverine Village to get out of it. There'll be no change, absolutely no change. Sure, you're still gonna get your 5%, you're still gonna get your 2%, only our 2% pay fee, we don't have to share it with WOCA. It'll come directly to the village, where we can use this money in our village for various things that will come down the road. So I think my bottom point is here is that I'm asking and I'm recommending that we do opt out of WOCA, and we'll do it on our own, and I think we'll be further ahead all the way along the road.
Okay, and the procedure for opting out is then we deliver notice. It's before July 1st, 2015, and so then we are in for the next year, and then we're out after that, right?
Yeah, the numbers that you just talked about earlier
Yep.
will be effective January 1st, 2016.
So it really doesn't change much financially. It's just that we get the money directly instead of taking the money and mixing it, say, with the school
With the-
studio,
yes, that's
with the
correct.
people from West Bloomfield, the people with Commerce Township. We aren't sharing in that, but we still have the option of contributing into.
And if you want to give it to the
Yeah.
schools, once we get it, they can come here, they can come to council and ask for a grant, absolutely.
Okay, the one other thing I saw in here is it looks like we may then end up with some responsibilities for providing the public access, however much programming we're supposed to be providing within the village, is that?
Well, your PEG fees are limited to PEG uses, so.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that you need to set up a cable station, but, it'd be like providing the money to the schools with whatever, you're restricted on use of those funds, so.
Right, oh, okay, I thought I saw in here.
Not only the schools, anybody could come here and ask for a grant.
That's how I read it too.
Any nonprofit organization, if it would better their community, because this is paid money, which is public, government, and EEG, education. So it can go three ways.
Yeah, and so, just to be specific about what I was asking about, it looks to me like we are then responsible for providing to them 8 hours a day of PEG programming.
No. There's nothing in here
So
that
I'm-
says.
This is
so I'm
Comcast,
misunderstanding.
you're talking, that's the Comcast,
Their responsibility.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a provider's responsibility.
Okay, so yeah, we don't, what I'm saying is we don't have to pony up me and my idiot reindeer antlers for 8 hours a day.
No.
Permanent.
It's your franchise, whoever you have your franchise with, which is
Oh, okay,
Comcast, you
got
just
it.
re-signed your
Okay,
contract with them.
okay, so I was reading that backwards.
Well, maybe I wrote it backwards.
But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to suddenly make sure that we've got, and it's not that big a deal, because usually what you do is you just put something on a loop like we do already, and you're good.
So really, the only change then would be financially, we'd stay even. The only change would be we wouldn't have a WOCA member representing our community.
Yeah.
Right, we would no longer be a part of
So there's
WOCA
really
instead
no
of.
downside to it.
But
to
quite
withdraw.
honestly, so I have 4 communities that are part of the consortium and 5 communities. So the Comcast franchise agreement just came up for renewal. And I called a couple, I didn't talk to Jerry, but I called a couple of the different reps to find out, because first of all, WOCA doesn't have legal counsel. So there's no one person I can talk to. And so I talked to a couple different reps, and it was explained to me that WOCA doesn't have a position on approval, of the franchise with Comcast. That, they don't have a choice. Well, my point to them was, the purpose of this organization was to have a recommendation for that franchise to the member communities. Why be a member of something if there's not a unified opinion about something? And I was told WOCA does not have an opinion about the Comcast franchise, regardless of whether they can or not. They should as an organization. Why be a member if you're not even getting any direction on sign or don't sign?
They no longer have any legal teeth, and they don't even function in an advisory capacity anymore.
Right, there's just no, okay.
There's no reason to be there.
So I was
So-
advising 5 communities separately
Mhm.
on what to do, which is kind of silly to be a member of this organization when you have to go out on your own to do everything anyways.
I'd like to
And it
make a
incurs
motion to-
$20,000 a year in administrative.
It made sense in 1983, but it doesn't now.
Do we have it written down how I should make the motion, or should I just
No,
make
I
the
think,
motion
but I would
that we should?
entertain a motion that we withdraw from WOCA and serve notice.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Motion Stack, second Duff, further discussion.
Thank you, Jerry, for your service as our
Yeah,
local
really.
member
Years.
for all these
We're
years.
not gonna do it.
Find us something. We'll have a retirement
Tell me,
party.
we'll figure something out.
And we are pulling out now. I think it is an important point to make that WOCA served a great purpose
Yes.
originally when it started
Bring
off.
the cable here.
Got cable out here, got modern
They really did.
telecommunications.
We built the schools, we gave the they both have studios that are state-of-the-art.
Yeah.
There's any place in the
Like
city of
Fox.
Michigan or anywhere that have studios, you know, they've been getting $80, $90, $100,000 a year for 33 years. Those studios are better than probably Channel 7.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
That's why you're paying 160.
So it's not that this money was wasted at all. It went to a good
It's
project.
just, especially after the state took negotiating authority
Yeah,
in
and there's nothing to
2007, I think.
negotiate.
so.
This is run by the state and we're all
Yep.
done.
Have you heard at all who might be coming in?
I'm sorry.
Have you heard anything in terms of where they are on this new contract or who they're choosing?
Right now, on January 15th, our franchise ends.
Right.
So the franchise is going to continue to be with Comcast until Comcast buys Time Warner, and then Comcast officially sells off Michigan, and turns it over to
Charter?
Greater.
Greater Media.
There's some Bright House trucks running around.
Bright House is running too, yeah.
So right now, we're still going to be Comcast for the first part of the year.
Boy, a lot of finance attorneys are making a lot of money
Get
off
to
of
that.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Dish, so I don't-
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
But when you think about when cable started and the bills were $19 a
Yeah.
month, and you got rid of your
I don't remember being that high.
rabbit
Hmm?
ears.
I remember it was
it's
like
amazing
9-something, 9-7.
Yeah, and
Oh, for
What you're paying
$19
today.
bill.
Oh, my gosh.
to the standard.
Yeah, because I was
kidding.
president when they did it. That big ceremony, and I think I could watch Hockey Night in Canada clear for $9.
For
No, I
$9.
have no idea. I don't pay that bill.
50 times as many channels,
Moving on,
but not
moving
50
on.
times as much time to watch them.
No.
Moving on.
Okay, further discussion of the motion. This one calls for a roll call, I think. Roll call vote.
Maggie?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Stack?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Sure.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes. All right, thank you, council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Very much.
Thank you, everybody who's,
Thank you, Jerry.
I'm sure I have.
Gotta get cable free for the rest of your life, Jerry.
Anybody have a part-time job?
oh, we can find things for you to do. Don't worry about that. Park and Rec has some lovely openings right now. Okay, maybe a few more. Building over here.
Thanks.
All right, that brings us, I have written over C, but C was on consent, right? Was it?
No.
No.
Oh, sorry. C, request from Captain Ellsworth to attend the Michigan Association Chief of Police Conference in Grand Rapids, not to exceed $1,000 within budgeted funds.
Mr.
Pretty
President, I'd
pretty
like-
straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Go ahead, Ed.
I would like to make the motion to, as presented here by our police chief, that he attend the training in Grand Rapids at a cost not to exceed $1,000 on February 3rd through the 7th of next year.
Second.
Motion Sikowitz, second Duff. Further discussion. Looks like a good conference, looks like good training.
And they've added some stuff too, just so you guys know, the body cameras are gonna be a huge discussion, so.
I thought that might be the case.
That's came up, and I talked to Councilman Nagy earlier. That's definitely on our radar. Me and Sharon have talked about it, and we're gonna gather some additional information and hopefully be able to work that in with our current system that we have, rather than reinvent the wheel. I wanna wait and see how it goes, so.
All right, further discussion. Roll call vote.
Duff?
Yes.
Stack?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yep.
Record number.
Thank you. Item D, recommendation from Water Management Board. Water Management Board recommends council contracted Progressive AE to take bacterial water sample, including E. coli, 5 times during the 2015 season at 3 locations, cost of $1,250.
I sent an email to Cliff Yance today, but I didn't hear back. And I wasn't clear if this was $1,250 for the entire 2015 season?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Season.
reflected in their minutes, I
And
think.
is that the lab fees, everything?
That's everything, yeah.
Okay.
They haven't, we've always tested it.
Yeah,
on our own.
250 a pop.
Yeah, we've always done our own, but it's been difficult to coordinate
We
volunteers.
collected the
sometimes.
samples and then had the lab do the
Yeah,
testing.
I do.
Well, I think it's good background to know, too, that currently, our limnologist is doing a majority of the tests that we used to do at the board anyways, because that's part of the reporting requirement of the state on aeration. So this just dovetailed right into
He's going to
having
be
them
out
do
there
everything.
anyways.
Yeah, he's going to be out there. And he's using the equipment that we really don't have for dissolved oxygen, so I think the basis of all of this new testing is going to be important over the long term.
Okay.
Make a recommendation that we approve
Hmm?
A&E to do the sampling as proposed by the Water Management Board for $1,250 for the 2015 lake season.
Motion Nagy, do I hear a second?
Support.
I'll
Second
second.
Scott. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Sheila, do we have a microphone over there? You have had a lot of roll call votes tonight.
Mr. President, I have a couple of questions that I saw here in the minutes.
For water management?
Yes.
Water management?
What's water management?
We're on D, so this is a good time for it.
Yeah,
The first one is fish habitat structures have been placed.
they have been.
I have contacted them, I have to report back to the state on
GPS.
where they were placed on the permit, and I don't have that information back from them yet.
Well, I guess maybe I'm missing something. I thought we had talked about it, but I didn't know that they were actually, how many did they put in and where?
I don't have a report back from
Yeah,
them, so I don't know.
they were scheduled
5
to
to
put in.
7, I think.
Yeah, 6 is what I thought they ended up with being constructed.
They made them already?
Yeah,
installed?
they've been made, they've been constructed. I'm pretty sure they're in, and they've been put in the GPS locations that were recommended, I guess. So that's something that we'll have to get from Scott Lewis and Paul, because they were the ones in charge of that.
Then the other thing that I noticed, and then they talked about, I guess there's dredging in the canals and stuff like that. I'm assuming that if that is something that takes place and the DNR approves it, that's something that those residents will have to finance. That won't be financed through the village.
It was just, we had a presentation through, actually a gentleman that was making a presentation when you and I were last up at the Michigan Lakes and Streams. And he did a teleconference from New York into the board, and it was only a discussion as to what potentially could be done and what the costs were, and we don't have the cost yet, so. I think the board is just looking at the issue of whether dredging makes sense in the canals again. I don't see it coming up with any recommendations in the very near future.
I've heard it expressed from a few homeowners back
Yeah.
there that they'd at least like to know if we can get the cost of it to see if it's something that would be worth them pursuing.
And the
That
last.
is- Go ahead. I was going
I'm
to say,
sorry.
the question of aeration has always been at the fore, but it won't work in the canals.
No.
So,
And the last question I had is, we, probably about 3 meetings ago, gave, was it $500 to the Water Management Board for the Muckaway super duper pellets? Has anything been done with that, or are we gonna wait till the spring or what?
we were actually in some discussion with Paul on that during the meeting, and we're going to continue that discussion now at the next meeting. Paul was going to look into the issue of diffusion and where the best test spot was. I think where we were probably honing in on was there's that area, the ponded area. I'm trying to think who used to
Yeah,
live
I know,
right behind.
Kemp's used to live there.
No.
Back where Jim Donahue lived?
Donahue,
where
yeah.
Jim
Jim
Donahue
Donahue,
was, and that's actually what Paul is looking into, because it's contained, it's an area where we can probably get a good measurement, and there won't be a lot of boat traffic going through. There's something else going on in the background, I think maybe the board or the council might want to know, and that's being led by our limnologist. The reason why our heads were placed where they were was because of some DNR input when the question of where they were going to be placed GPS-wise, as compared to more in the deep holes, we had them spread out. And it turns out that upon deeper inquiry, the DNR had come back that on some aeration installations, there were increases in temperatures.
At the deeper levels.
At the deeper levels, up to 80 degrees. Now, I'm not sure how so that's all under discussion right now. We're having communications back and forth, and Paul actually took underwater shots of the fish gathering around the aerators in lieu of what the DNR thought that they would push the fish away. So I think we're going to win on that. We'll probably be moving some of these heads into deeper holes. That'd be a nice
And since we're on this subject, the structure, did the village pay for the material, or was that donated, or what?
You mean for the?
For the fish structures?
Oh, it was all donated. It was pallets and other items that.
Because I didn't think you could use pallets.
I
That was in the request, and
Yeah.
that was approved.
Oh, it was
as long
approved.
as they weren't used in some
In
manufacturing,
industrial.
They had to be
industrial.
wired together, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We'll get you the locations. I think we're all interested in them.
Yeah, those locations may be very popular next summer.
They could be, yeah. Good place to lose your hooks. Right? And catch
Throw an
fish.
anchor.
Anchor, yeah.
Okay.
The aerators are out, right? They pull them out, right?
Brings us
Only
to-
the compressors came out, you know, the aeration's still in there.
Yeah. But I mean, we compress them.
Can we do?
That
G
brings us
through?
to item G, and I think we can do G through
Jay.
Third call to public.
J.
Do I hear a K?
Do you have a preference there, Mr. Stack?
You?
I just wanted to get through them.
So do I hear a motion from Stack to adopt ordinance number 106A91, 106A92, 106A93, and 106A94?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Duff. Discussion. Brian, I think you were going to talk with, or you may have talked with Richard, the sign guy. Was there further discussion around the sign ordinances?
No,
No,
He
okay.
didn't show up at your meeting.
no, he didn't.
Okay.
What do you mean, the flashing,
Well, actually,
lighting signs?
when we presented it here, he had some discussion on it at our last meeting, and actually thought it was pretty well put together, with the exception of the lumens, the
Okay.
measurement system.
Were you talking about the lighted sign?
Yeah, the
Well, if you
intensity.
notice, Walled Lake has a sign, and there's supposed to be a certain time limit, and that thing's changing every 2 minutes. I think they might have to check if they have an ordinance, because, I mean, you're reading it and you're reading it.
Okay, so I think we've done due diligence. I know planning's done a lot of work around this. Any further discussion on the motion? Yeah, we did. We had motion Stack, second Duff to
Okay,
adopt,
Mhm.
and the ordinance is G through J as listed. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Let me make sure I've got our KLM. Do I hear a motion to adopt ordinance number 106A95, 106A96, and 106A97?
So moved.
Support.
Motion Stack, second Nagy. Further discussion. These, by the way, are the changes in the temporary storage structure.
We have a temporary moratorium.
We still have
on
the,
that.
yeah, we still have the moratorium.
Yeah.
We still have a more.
No, still-
Adopting the definitions and stuff.
Yeah, we adopted that.
So why do we-
Well, because of the permitting issue. We
Yeah,
have-
so we're gonna
Planning
get the
is-
permitting issue, we'll discuss that in the
Yeah.
admin committee Friday morning. Yes.
Why don't you adopt these ordinances and then clarify your more moratorium in place after you've adopted these
Mhm.
ordinances, just so you're not, you have a moratorium from last month adopting some ordinances that kind of,
Do, accept a friendly amendment to the motion. Let's get it in the motion.
That sounds
To adopt these, but keep the existing moratorium in
In
place.
place for another 5.5.
Until, did we say till May 1st? What was?
yeah, I think that's 6 months.
Yeah.
I was just looking.
Let's take a quick look and make sure we get the right date in there, but.
Say, if you went to January 1.
Yeah, it's in our, it's in our. I thought it was May 1st.
It's 180 calendar days. However you want to stretch it out. Because otherwise.
Yeah, May 1st.
May 1st, okay. So, to be clear, motion is to adopt ordinance numbers 106A95, A96, and A97, and to keep the moratorium in place until May 1st.
Yes.
All right. So that is our motion. Further discussion on the motion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 All right. Item Q, Building Department Fee Schedule Update. I'll ask the administrator to introduce this. Fairly straightforward.
It looks like a lot of information, but if you've read the cover sheet, you will see that there's been a lot of research done in the office, and several communities were included in the fee schedule updates. Most of our fees have not been increased since 1988, so they were in need of increasing. If you look at the fee schedule, you will see that our 1988 amounts, and then 3 other communities, and then our proposed amounts to the far right. You have to remember, over the years, a lot of these things have to be advertised more than once in the newspaper. That costs a lot more money. Our recording secretaries cost more money. We cannot make money on the building department, but we need to cover the fees that we're being charged for certain things that we have to advertise, and office staff work, and you'll also see that there's escrow amounts, and escrow amounts are returned to the resident if they're not used. So, but you have to have enough escrow because you may need the engineer, the planning consultant, the attorney. So if you don't collect enough money in the beginning, sometimes it's difficult to carry on. You'll also see that we always collected construction bonds, and we found that most communities do not do that anymore. And if there is a problem, it's a legal issue. So it's better not to have the bond, because it's cost savings actually not to have the bond, because there's a lot of work that has to go on in the office to release the bonds and keep track of them. So this was reviewed by all of our staff and our building official, our plumbing, heating, and electrical inspector. And we believe these are good amounts to be charged.
So if I can sum up, our prices that we've been charging for the last 27 years or so were adequate to cover costs in 1988, but no longer do.
Correct.
And so this is the cost of working the buildings.
I'll make a motion.
I'll support it.
Motion Duff, second Stack. Further discussion.
Nice job by Judy.
Yes, we
Yeah.
spent a lot of hours on
Yeah.
this.
Definitely put a lot of work went into this. I do want to also mention that although it's a significant increase in the costs, it's still below the average of most of the surrounding villages in terms of what they charge.
Yep.
Today we're discussing $2,500 for rezoning.
Ooh. This is a lot. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Further discussion. Seeing none, let me get a roll call vote.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Staff?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, council, and thank you again to Judy. That was a lot of work.
She spent quite a few hours on this.
All right, page forward a bit here. Park Capital Improvement Committee, we have, we actually have two recommendations here from them. So let me take these one at a time. First one being motion by Scott, second by Conduct. Recommend council allow for the development of Phase 1 of Oak Island Park. Cost to be budgeted in 101,900, not to exceed $9,000. So, John, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I can certainly, I guess, add a little detail if council wants it.
Please.
We've met.
Briefly.
Briefly. We've met an enormous, I'll do it fast, an enormous number of times with residents up on Oak Island, as well as Sharon, of course, and who else do we have?
Mike.
Mike, and I'm
Lynn.
missing somebody else.
Lynn.
Huh?
Lynn.
Well, Lynn, but no, DPW was up there a couple times too, because there was questions on where to move the snow and how it would impact the project. Signage will be at the entrance as you're coming up the hill where the current sign is. We will be extending, or the proposal is to extend the rock formations along the back and bring a perpendicular line out to give some definition as to where the parking will be. And then we also are going to have the DPW put soil down and reseed, because now we're going to have a definitive parking area. But we're not going to do anything, I guess, in agreement with all of the islanders, to actually pave or put any of the tailings or millings down in that area, so.
So it would still remain a fairly natural-looking grass.
Yeah, it's going to be a grass-looking area, so.
Okay, a couple questions, then I think we have to go back to our attorney, because I believe there's still some legal discussion around the boundaries and a few legal processes going on.
Before we get to there, just curious, what are the structures that are gonna go in there?
Well, that's phase 2. This is phase 1. We haven't
Just
decided.
$9,000 just to make the
Well, Ed, the issue of what we have is about 90 linear feet of boulders, and in order to make it look good, we're probably going to bring up a berm and then put the boulders at the front.
And the signage.
And the signage, yeah,
Some
so there's.
landscaping.
And landscaping.
So this is all aesthetics, this is no equipment?
No
That's
equipment.
correct, and
Okay.
I think we're probably at the higher end of what this is gonna end up looking, but I mean, we're gonna have
Just-
those numbers to come back.
just wanted
and-
to know.
Yeah, no,
Okay, so let's go to what,
So I'm gonna rain on your parade a little bit, because we have some litigation going on now on that boundary line. So,
Right,
and I
correct.
can tell you that it very likely will not be resolved by spring of 2015. So berming and boulders and boundary line,
Yeah,
none of
that's-
that can happen.
well, and those boundary lines and the berming is all at the back of the park. I think we can still carry forward with doing what we need to do with the signage
Yes.
and the other.
Signage, yes,
Yeah.
and if you're staying away from that boundary there and the boulders and the landscaping, the berming over there, until the litigation is resolved one way or another. But
Mhm.
I don't anticipate that happening by spring.
That's fine. That's fine. I think
You
we
go forward with the
anticipated
parking
that.
area?
We wanna, yeah, the parking area can be done.
Mailboxes too, right?
Huh?
No,
And the mailboxes.
No, we can't really do the parking area either.
Yeah,
Hmm?
you.
Oh, you mean as far as the perpendicular boundary, we
Yes.
can't, yeah, I understand, yeah, but
So I
the
didn't know
mailboxes, we
if
don't.
that, you know, I mean, I cannot possibly anticipate for you how long the litigation's gonna last,
Mhm.
but if you're taking this $9,000 and just holding it until you can do something, I don't know if you wanna put it somewhere else, but it could be through the summer.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, between the signage, we're probably somewhere around $3,500 on that, so we're gonna get that accomplished at any rate. Any
so-
comment on what's going on with that? I mean,
Who's sued?
you can't.
I think if we were gonna have comment on litigation, we would probably want to go into closed session.
Yeah.
No,
There's
yeah.
nothing anyways.
Yeah,
So
okay.
It just started, that's why I'm
That's-
saying.
I guess
there's
that's a
no way
comment I
it's
was
gonna
asking
be,
for. Yeah.
done by spring, because we just started, so.
So instead of approving a budget for a project that legally we don't know where we can put it,
Make a
how we can
motion.
do it, I think we can proceed with this signage, and maybe I'd like to see us proceed with the signage.
I'll make a motion to proceed with the signage for the Oak Island Park. $3,000, $35,000.
Budgeted funds.
I think 3,500 is what we
need
figured.
landscaping too, so I don't wanna cut us short, because we haven't.
Well, you're talking about the.
We need landscaping for where
No,
the sign,
signs.
there's a little berm there
Out
and
of
stuff, so.
budgeted funds from phase one.
Right,
Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
why the 9,000 is a problem, I mean,
So,
Yeah,
so
it's budgeted
to
funds, we
proceed
have to
with
spend
the,
it.
with the
Parks.
signage and associated landscaping,
Landscaping
cost
in
not to
there.
exceed 9,000, it's
Got
gonna be
it, in
considerably
reserve.
less than that, but that's
Yeah.
the budgeted amount.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And
That's
that
gonna be out of the park fund also?
Maybe,
it's out of capital, park and rec capital improvement.
Oh, okay.
so when we're kind of, we like
I'll
understand
second
that
that.
approving that project isn't go do the work until
No.
until legal counsel says, go, you can go safely go do that work.
No, we wouldn't.
I don't want you to have to do I don't want you to do all these improvements and me come back and say, guess what?
No, we wouldn't.
Take it out.
No, we
No, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and what we're talking about
We
is
shouldn't
just the
lose it that
signage,
anyway.
just the
Okay.
signage, just putting in the new
Crystal clear what went
sign
on.
up at the corner far away from all the rest.
Okay, sounds good.
And, yes, don't do any of it
Right.
if the attorney objects.
Well, I mean, just don't go near that
Yeah,
area.
yeah, exactly. So I think we're clear on motion that we have. We'll get the signage and the landscaping around that done.
Okay.
Everything else is, I think, gonna have to pend until
Okay.
we have some stuff.
We can handle that.
Okay, I forget who we had the motion and second from.
Ed made the
Ed
motion.
and I
Jeff
seconded
and
it.
Scott.
John Scott.
So, Sikowitz and Scott, further discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, thank you, and thank you to Park and Rec Capital Improvement Committee, which has put a lot of hours into actually getting this all into the realm of where we actually have some budgets and can start approving some stuff. And the rest we'll have to wait. Okay, oh, yes, sorry, we have a second item there.
Mhm.
So, motion by Scott, seconded by Conduct, to recommend council solicit legal counsel to investigate the possibility of converting Helmsford Well House property to village parkland. Also, possibility of gaining access to the village's lakefront property in front of Penny Lake Apartments. Do we have an expected cost around that?
That's legal, so.
No, I don't, I mean, honestly, because these areas are so old, I don't even know. It's kind of like
Okay.
what you just did with your building. I don't want to tell you. I
Okay,
mean, it's not
to
going to be
do-
thousands and thousands of dollars, but I'm looking at title work from the
Okay.
turn of the
Stone Age.
century, so.
Okay, before we go to a motion on that, the one thing I might like to see us also explore in there is to find out the steps it would take to convert the Centerwood property to village parkland. That's the property that was deeded for those local homeowners. They don't, as far as we know, have a subdivision association. We originally had looked at it as a potential park
Yeah.
location. The steps, I think, and I'm not our attorney, I think the steps are basically, if we wanted to be able to convert that to a parkland, we would have to have that subdivision form an association with bylaws, and then that association could potentially convey the property to us.
And which piece of property is this?
So this is
Centerwood.
Centerwood. It's the little right-of-way between
Strip.
Brushwood and
Got it.
Dunreath. Right there in the
Planned
middle.
and unimproved road.
Yeah, we've
You
talked
know-
about it a few times.
Instead of taking this shotgun effect and getting all these legal fees, why don't we decide where do we want to put the next park? Start with that. If you want to do the well site, let's investigate the well site. But what I see, and again, my big argument is about these parks, it's a great idea if the neighborhood wants it. But I don't think council should put a park in a neighborhood without first getting in touch with the residents that are 300 or 400 feet north, south, east, and west, just like if you were doing a variance on something, saying, what do you think about having a park in your neighborhood? They don't want it, don't do it. But now, we got Oak Island, then you got Nantucket, you're already looking at 3 or 4 places to spend money to find out, even if we're gonna get it there, let's take it a little bit slower. Pick a spot and see what you can do with it. But it's all legal work, and it's all money being spent for something that we might not even use.
Ed, I hear what you're saying, but the flip side also has costs in terms of going forward, doing all the due diligence around bringing people in, seeing if they want a park, seeing if they want to do a park. When you do that.
You send out a postcard to the people in a 300, 400-foot radius, we're thinking of making a park on this particular street. What do you think about it?
But does it make sense to call them all in to do that if we don't even know if we can make a park out of it? That's the question is it actually
Feasible.
possible or practical to use one of these sites as parkland?
I live in the Helmsford neighborhood, okay, and my neighbors would love to have a park there, but we were told that when this was investigated before, since that piece of property was deeded to the well, as a well source, that we could not use it as a village park. That's what we were told, that's what I told the neighbors, okay? But now if we're looking at it again, that's great, because we've got that, and we have also an access, subdivision access to the canal right there, that you could use that and expand that if that's a possibility. My neighbors would love it, okay? But, like I said, we were told that we couldn't because of the way it was deeded initially. Now, if we're gonna, formally investigate that and make sure that's great, at least we're gonna know one way or the other. That's what we were told before.
Right, your Helmsford, this is kind of something similar, what I did already with Centerwood, so the work I need to do on Centerwood is gonna be very limited. My
Yeah, I
gut
think
is
that'll
telling
be
me you
simple.
might need a replat, I don't know, but I need to look at all of that again. I've already looked at the title work and the plat on this one. The Helmsford, I haven't looked at the title work or the plat, I don't know what any deeds say, so
Yeah.
that will require a little more work.
And we don't have a subdivision association there
Oh,
to
in
deal
the
with
Penny
right
Lake.
now.
Penny Lake apartment.
Yep.
That seems like that would be the hardest to get to, really.
Yeah.
And it seems like it would probably be the most abused.
That's why it needs to be fenced.
Be most what? Most
He said
Electrified
abused.
fencing.
Abused,
Yeah, I'd put electrified fencing around.
electrified fencing and.
That may not be the open and welcoming atmosphere we're looking for.
Yeah, but you haven't been there
So-
cutting Phragmites and seen the people who, yeah, you know what I mean.
There seems to be some comment from neighbors across from the apartments that there would be a welcome separation of that.
That's true.
Yeah,
Give it back to Walled Lake.
Yeah,
I think on these other 3 sites, we just need to know specifically
if we can move forward.
whether it's feasible to move forward. If it's feasible to move forward, then, before we spend whatever additional expenses would be involved in actually doing the conversion, then I think that's right. We have to talk with the neighborhood, keeping my crown of office at all time. We need to talk with the neighbors, find out, is there genuine neighborhood buy-in? Are they looking for something? In casual conversations with people from those neighborhoods over the last year or two, they're genuinely
There's interest.
excited, there's interest. I think people are very
Yes,
positive
yeah,
about it.
sure.
So I think that's something we have to do back to them. I don't want to get a bunch of people here in a room all excited and say, well, we really have no idea if it's possible. Because then they'll be
Yeah.
like, well, why did you call me down here?
Right, I mean, people, kind of like if you build it, they will come. I mean, I couldn't believe watching that pathway getting cut on Glengarry and the traffic. I mean, Jeff's cutting the sod and he's got woman behind him with a baby stroller. I mean, and it was incredible to see how many people use that.
I think we need to do this preliminary work anyways, and then we can decide which location to pick, and then we can budget it out, and
Yeah,
then we
then-
can sequence the installation of it, so.
All right, so do I have a motion? I forget if I actually got a motion for that.
I make a motion that we ask the
Legal counsel?
the attorney, to proceed with finding out the three
We're gonna-
properties that were discussed.
So ask the attorney to investigate the possibility of converting to
Right.
parkland, Helpsford Well, access to Penny Lake, and converting Centerwood.
Yes.
And we have no idea what the cost is.
I'm sorry, no.
No.
I mean, it isn't gonna be thousands of dollars, you know, but I can't say,
Cost not to exceed $2,000.
Okay,
that'll work.
second it.
Motion Nagy, second Duff. If it comes up to more than that, let us know. If it comes up to more than that, it's probably a more complicated legal situation than we can resolve.
Yeah, I mean, you're not asking me to convert.
No, no, we just
Right,
want to find out
you're
what it is.
asking me to, right.
Yeah.
so-
I can accept that.
Okay.
Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Duff.
Yes.
Stack.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Nedrow.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Nagy.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Park Capital Committee. Okay, that brings us to update from the Administrative Committee verbal. I wanted to update you guys on a couple things that have been asked about. First of all, I wanna just mention something that we did out of our last meeting, which is, we have often sort of bumped around the time looking for admin committee to meet, because schedules are difficult. We're trying to take a different tact going forward, which is we're gonna make the Friday after our council meeting, Friday morning, 9 AM, that'll be a standing administrative committee meeting. I think we all decided it's a little easier for us to just plan around that than to do something. So these things will come back to, these are things that were sent to council already. We're gonna be talking about them 9 AM at the admin committee. Plowing pathways, in terms of investigating that, we've gotten a survey of the length of pathways that we have. We've done a little bit of an initial investigation of what other communities do. The administrators had some discussions with our insurance carrier on what we've done there. She's gonna bring that investigation back to the committee Friday morning, and then we will either be able to make a recommendation back to council or do further investigation. But that one's before us right now, and we're taking a look at it. DPW evaluation, we are also working on that. We have begun collecting up, sort of in detail DPW tasks. What does DPW do? We're starting with the logical starting point of that in-depth study that was done a few years ago when we looked at consolidation of services with Walled Lake. The things that were listed there are some things on that list that are no longer apply. There are other things that have been added to their responsibilities since then. So we're going to take a look there. We're going to take a look in some depth at the cost centers that their hours get billed out to, and try to find out more of where exactly we are with DPW, so we can present back. My assumption is that when we present that back, we'll want to do a full work session on it and talk about it in some depth. So that is my update on those two items. Ed, I know you had requested those updates, so let me ask you.
I requested those two items, just to comment on the plowing. I think it's critical that now that we have sidewalks to get people out of harm's way, is just because of the weather conditions, people are going to be put in harm's way to walk in the street at the worst time when it's icy and snowy and slippery. And my concern is from the park down here and up to the school. And a majority of that can be plowed with a truck, simply because the roller that compacts that asphalt is a 5-ton roller. A pickup truck doesn't even weigh half that. And the blade can be turned, the width can be turned, and so much of this is just parallel, butts right up to the road. And whatever we do in this village is liability. When we put up that rollerblade rink, that was a liability. Somebody falls on the steps coming down here, you can be sued. When you're in the governmental thing, you're exposed to everything. And I think it would be a shame that after doing all that work to get the sidewalk in and in place, not to be able to use it 365 days of the year. Another thing on that sidewalk, and I talked with Sharon, and I talked about both these things just recently, but we've got that milling left, and Mike's not here, but you can convey to him, we need to shore up the edges of the asphalt, especially up and down South Commerce. Because you can see the asphalt is 3 to 4 inches high, and then it's just a drop off. So whether a car or even people walking on that edge, it's gonna break it off. It's just like a road. We need to bring some of that gravel up there and pitch it away so that edge is protected. And there's a little bit of it along Glengarry, but the majority of it is up South Commerce. And that, whatever we use, if we use the tractor, a snow plow, whatever, but even people walking on it, you can, just with your shoes on the edge, especially in the summertime once it gets hot, will lose that edge. And the comment I wanted to make about the DPW is, years back, every time there was a project, our DPW did it. And now, things are getting farmed out left and right. And those guys are more than qualified to do the work that gets done in this village that we keep farming out. 3 or 4 years ago, we knew we were gonna do Glengarry Road. There was plenty of time for our DPW, if they were assigned a job, to work on some of these culverts in driveways and clean out some of the ditches in the driveways, which is what they do. That's what they do. And then when we put the sidewalk in, we right away went out and hired an outsider to do it, and that was work they could have done. And I think we have to go back to the point that if we're gonna hire somebody part-time, there's part-time work to be done. Maybe we get a big project like this, so you hire a couple fellas out there for 18 bucks an hour to cut the lawn, not a guy that's making 25 an hour and another 15 or 20 an hour in benefits to cut the lawn, because they can do that. But when I'm gonna be at your Friday meeting, with the help of our treasurer, I asked him and got these figures together, and you look at the amount of money that's put into maintenance, not doing something, just maintenance around the building, in the shop, and all this other kind of stuff, that I don't think we're just utilizing them. And they're very talented. They've got we got the equipment, they got the capability. And I just think we're missing the boat by farming everything out. So, that's it.
All right, thank you. Much more discussion to come on that item. Set topics for the December 2014 work session. I would note that the fourth Wednesday is December
Christmas Eve.
23rd. Is it Christmas Eve, actually? December 24th?
Oh, that sounds
Christmas
good.
Eve. I will be in upstate New York that day.
Motion to cancel that.
Oh.
Motion Stack, second Nagy to cancel the December work session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Least surprising motion of the year. Pending business, can pend for now, but when we get to a January work session, which I'd like to do on goals, as we've often done, especially the first time we have a council all together again, I really want us to take a look at those two and decide what we're doing and how we're proceeding.
I agree, I think we need to look at that, both of them, yes.
Update from Captain Ellsworth.
I have nothing.
You got your new car yet?
No, I have not. They did expect it to be in on Friday. I did not get the call yet, even this week. I suspect that it's in. He's probably busy calling all the other places and getting arrangements. I plan on picking it up the first part of next week, but not yet this week, so.
Nice Christmas present.
Yeah.
It will be. We probably won't get it back until after the first of the year with all the modifications that have to be done. But we did get all the equipment.
The
and,
supercharger,
we're ready to go.
the slicks and all that.
Yeah, right.
I want to see that thing doing wheelies.
Yeah.
All right. Update from the treasurer.
Nothing here, Mr. President.
We have a fairly substantial update from the
Well, I'll
administrator.
make up for everyone, sorry. I have a whole page of things here. First, I want to let you know that the LEAF program was very successful this year. We had our new contractor, Republic. We had no breakdowns. Everything went very smooth.
You know, speaking of leads, I just want to say, when I was out doing a lot of canvassing and campaigning during the election, it was leaf season. I actually did end up talking to quite a few village residents who were out raking and doing other things. And they all expressed a lot of support for what we do with the leaves, and we're really pleased with what they see out there, so. Informal survey, but people were quite happy with the leaf pickup.
And two, I think it took Republic a little while to get into the groove of the village, but just like that letter we got, I don't see them kicking the cans and throwing them around. I mean, they make an effort. And so one man on a truck.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not
lot of
even a
exercise.
shotgun rider.
It's a lot of exercise, I tell you.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is the aeration system was winterized on November 25th, so they took the compressors back to the shop, so they're all back there where they should be for the winter. And we had a couple noise complaints, and Dave Haddis spoke with the residents, and they will be working on that before they start them back up in the spring. The next thing, the time capsule was delivered, and the historical committee is working really hard to fill it up. It's larger than I was expecting, so there's a lot of room to put things in there. And it'll be placed in that opening on the stairway with a plaque over it to be opened in 2054 on our 100th year anniversary, and if any of you are here, John will still be here, he says, so.
Is it a cylinder or is it a box?
It's a box. It's a box. There's a bus
My reindeer
trip.
antlers make the cut.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're putting those in there. There's a bus trip to the Red Wings on New Year's Eve, and the tickets have already been sold, but we do have some seats left on the bus. So if you want to ride downtown on New Year's Eve, it won't cost you anything, just sign up because we have limited seats.
You need a free ride back too?
They'll bring you back if you get on,
Come over,
yeah.
go to the casino.
Yeah,
If
after-
you're sober.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Especially if you drink.
If you're
And-
sober?
It doesn't matter, I guess. And the auto show bus trip is scheduled for January 19th, leaving at noon, so that's during the week. And
I think is that on Martin Luther
Martin
King Day?
Luther King Day. Our offices are not
Busy day.
closed, but a lot of
Marching.
offices are. The DPW has done a lot of tree work on Manzano, Hermosa, Del Monte, and in the village parking lot, and they've replaced some of the fence there that trees were actually coming into our lot. Redwood has started 4 foundations for 4 buildings, the buildings that actually are going to face South Commerce, so they are moving along. The DPW has also been doing cold patching and grading the shoulders and grading the gravel roads along with when they finished up the leaf collection. So it's been busy here. You could see that the restoration took place in the council chambers, and every room in our building is kind of torn up right now, but we're working through it. And Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
I think that's all. I don't know. There might be more on here that I didn't read.
Okay, let's start down here. Council comments. Scott.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Nedro.
Everybody have safe holidays.
I wish everybody a safe holiday, and a happy holiday. And one question I'd like to ask, I don't know if it's in our charter or what, but I'd like to know what the responsibility of the finance committee is. We spend a lot of money and we've only had 1 meeting. I'm just curious what our position is.
We have generally met multiple times during the budget season. During the budget season, we meet quite frequently during budget season. After we get through budget season, there's not a lot on that committee to do. The finance committee itself was originally started, you may recall, when the village went through a bad treasurer situation. We've got an excellent treasurer now, quite pleased about that. Finance committee started out, though, in that finance committee has, over the years, served a couple of different purposes as we went through a lot of the long-term planning in terms of getting our budget back under control, sustainable, going forward. That was one of their responsibilities, and it's still certainly one of their responsibilities. It's also still their responsibility to look at our long-term capital expenditure plan and where we are with that. So it's, really long-term financial planning, looking at the budget, reviewing what we're doing, recommending whether it's good or bad, and looking at our long-term outlook. So
I'm
those
assuming we would have a meeting sometime in the next year, at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I would think we're gonna kick back off again in January. So, I mean, I see it as a
Merry
committee,
Christmas to all.
very busy in the budget cycle and quiet for the other 6 months. Let's go down here, Stack.
All right, well, I guess first I'd like to thank President McGee. The reason he's wearing his antlers is we made him a challenge that he said if we could get $100, he'd wear them, and he donated $120 to the Lakes Area Youth Assistance, which will bring me to my next comment, to thank Captain Ellsworth for stopping by and for your support with Becky for the Adoptive Family Program today. We ended up serving approximately 120 Lakes area children through that program, and a lot of people in the village helped out with that. That was really, really nice. So, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays to everybody, and look forward to a good new year.
Just hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Niggy.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. I guess won't see everybody till next year, but it's a long way off. Hey, Sharon, I one question relative to the leaf collection. Yes, it went good, but I noticed there's a number of people around the neighborhood who forgot about the bags the last time we're gonna pick them up, and they're still sitting on the curbside.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we do about that.
The ordinance enforcement officer will be giving them a letter. They're gonna have to take them somewhere or
Yes.
put them in their garage or alongside their garage till spring.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was right in my neighborhood, at least we got one. Guy
On
got
South
four.
Commerce, there's a couple.
And there's some on Helmsford too, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, and first off, I want to wish everybody happy holidays. Secondly, I want to thank Councilman Stack for taking the occasion of what I meant to be about 1 minute of wearing reindeer antlers to raise $120 for Lakes Area Youth Assistance. So well done there. In that spirit, January is a very cold month. If you can raise $200 for Lakes Area Youth Assistance, I will wear a Viking hat at the January council.
Okay.
Is that in addition to the 120 we got so far?
That's a new month, new hat.
New challenge.
All right.
New challenge. So if you get $200, I will
So
wear a Viking hat.
Or
Mr.
as soon
President?
as I get $200.
Can
Or does it
I
have to be
make
next month?
one comment before we adjourn? It just occurred to me in light of this kind of spirit and holiday. My neighbor, Bill Berndorf, came up with an idea, and he raised $50,000 and gave away 1,000 turkey dinners in downtown Detroit this last Thanksgiving.
Really?
On his own. It was a great thing to do. So I just wanted to mention that there are, we have a good community here, doing a lot of great things.
That is really,
It really is. He put $22,000 of his own money into this project. He's going to do it every year. So,
Fantastic.
if I thought people would donate $50,000 for me to wear a Viking helmet, I would have made that the number.
well, that brings me to the next point.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Nagy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
You know, Brooks Patterson,